And we're live. Here we are. Holy cow. It happened. We did it. We did it. As always, we here at the Canadian Commie like to deliver. Today is somewhat of an introspective day for me. Wednesdays are like a special day for me. It's very steadily turning into like my sacred day. I go down, get some half-price wings at the place. Hey, Cotton, how you doing? What happened? What do you mean, my man? Nothing much. Well, I get to go down to the beach, right? I get to spend some time staring at the clouds. Oh boy, is that ever nice. If you haven't, really think to yourself, when was the last time you sat down and just like on a beach or in a field or something and just stared at the sky? I highly advise everybody do it. It's very peaceful. It's very lovely. It's very wonderful. You just get to bask in the glory of creation and just get to live within it. Gray skies can be good, though. There's texture in gray skies, right? There's something lovely about a gray sky. Today, hey Matthew, how you doing, bud? Good to see you too, looking to Z. Today's sky was really lovely. Oh, I was just talking, Cotton. We did it. We started streaming. That's all. Today's sky was really beautiful. We got that really wonderful cloud effect where the cloud itself was gray, but the sun was coming down on top of it. And it really made me feel like that's how life is, you know, that we live on the underside of the cloud. And what we see is the gray. We get to see the gray. But right above it, just on the other side of the cloud, is a beautiful, glorious sun that's shining its rays down onto the top of the cloud. And if we're lucky, we get a break in the clouds and we get to see that sun streaming through, and we get to see the rim of the cloud as it's lit up from the top side, giving it the understanding that while we might be going through a dark time, that there's light on the other side, and that all we have to do is make it through the rain, and then we will see the glorious sun. Yeah, that's the mood I'm in. Right there. Right there. It is because I'm unique, gothy, edgy, and tortured. Yeah, that sounds right, Cotton. That sounds right. You're trying to find a way to express yourself into a world that doesn't actually want you to express yourself. That was the best part about growing up, is everybody was like, just be yourself, you know, just be uniquely you, right? As long as you completely conform to what the corporate power structure wants you to do. I think the biggest victory that we've seen from generation to generation is that tattoos are cool now. Like, when I was growing up, if a person had a tattoo, that was like the end of them. Right? Unless it was like a military tattoo. If you had a military tattoo, everybody was like, yeah, okay, fine. But if you had like any other tattoo whatsoever, right? I remember my parents' generation was just like, when we started to get tattoos, it was like, oh my God, you can't believe you do it. And the companies I used to work for, like, they would make you cover your tattoo, right? If you had a tattoo on the floor, you had to cover it. And very steadily over time, we've just been like, nah, fuck that. Tattoos are completely fine, because at the end of the day, we're not really permitted to express ourselves in serious ways, right? We can't actually express our feelings about what, certainly not in our workplaces, right? We can't actually express, and that gets beaten out of us, and we get trained to remain silent through the school system. Right? You can't stand up in a school system and actually talk about how absurd and ridiculous it is that we are forced to go through this indoctrination system. If you do, right? John's got a lot of potential. But you know, he just doesn't want to participate like the other kids do, you know. He's got a lot of potential, just doesn't want to participate like the other kids do. Right? Because who wants to fucking participate in this dumb shit? Oh, we're going to learn Hamlet for the 5th time. Oh, okay, great. The part where you said, I love gray skies. Yeah, I love gray skies too, Compton. Yeah, gray skies are great. No, they're absolutely wonderful. The only The only type of sky that I really don't care for is when you go out there and it's a nice blue sky, and a nice open blue sky is really lovely. But the clouds are just like those thin lines. You know what I mean? Where it like looks like chemtrails in the sky. It's just like a thin line, and there's like a couple of them. That's the only type of sky I don't care for. My favorite, of course, is the big billowing classic like marshmallow clouds, the type that you can kind of like see Mario jumping across, right? Like those nice billowy full clouds. That's my favorite type of sky for sure. But my parents put me off tattoos because they apparently have health risks. Do they? No. Like, no. Not. I mean, like, obviously you're putting a needle into your flesh, so if you have a dirty needle, like, so you gotta, like, you know, disinfect it. But, like, there's no like, health effect, really. I'm definitely one of those people that if I start getting tattoos, I'm gonna get a lot of tattoos, and I just know that that's what's going to happen. So I just don't do it. Because I'm like, it's for sure going to be like, if I get one tattoo, I'm going to spend like $10,000 on tattoos. Like, that's absolutely it. And I just don't have that kind of money or the patience, really, to sit in a chair. Right? Yeah, tattoos are safe. They're completely safe. Like, people who are saying, like, that's classic, like, hoobu-jubu nonsense to try and turn kids, like Dungeons and Dragons is a tool of the devil, and you'll start worshiping the devil if you do some Dungeons and Dragons. Like, that kind of, it's that same kind of kooky bullshit, right? If you masturbate a lot, your hands will grow hair. You know? Yeah, tattoos. You get a tattoo and suddenly you'll get AIDS. I got a friend of a friend of a friend of mine said that he got AIDS from a tattoo. Plane vapor trails used by pilots in training. Yeah. No, chemtrails isn't actually a thing. It's just exactly that. It's just vapor trails. It's fine. But it's just fun to say. That's all. It's just fun to say. We here at the Canadian Commie do not acknowledge, we do not confirm the existence of chemtrails. I just think it would be the most ineffective way of putting chemicals into us. There's so much more effective ways. And, like, provable things, right? We can prove that they're just jamming chemicals into us. Read the back of any product that's on the shelf in your grocery store. Right? We don't need to create this ridiculous narrative of, like, they're taking chemicals and putting them in planes and indiscriminately spreading them into the atmosphere to make everybody crazy. We don't need to do that. We can just take a look at the back of our food. There you go. Like, it's right. They tell you. They're just telling you straight to your brain. This has glytraffolate pioxide. That's got to be healthy, right? That's probably totally healthy, right? Oh, the first ingredient in this is corn syrup. That's fine, right? High fructose corn syrup, ingredient 1. This is a pack of mashed potatoes. Like, like, we know. That's what was so funny to me about the chemtrails thing when it got really popular for a second. I was, like, interested and kind of entertained it. I like to entertain these conspiracy theories because sometimes they do go interesting places. But the chemtrails one, I always was like, they don't need... in what universe do they need to do this? In what universe are they sitting there being like, you know how we'll poison the people of America? You know how we'll poison the people of America? We'll secretively put chemicals in the air that we also breathe. Like, no, bro. Like, just read the back of your soup containers. Like, that's how they're poisoning you. Like, if the goal is to poison everybody, they're doing so openly in front of you. Yeah, the white man's poison, high fructose corn syrup, man. When in doubt, right? How do we make this product cheaper? I know. High fructose corn syrup. That'll do it. Sure, the rest of the world has banned it. We here in America believe in freedom. And people are free to not eat high fructose corn syrup, even though we put it in literally everything. Oh, you'd like a bottle of water? Well, that's half high fructose corn syrup, because it's cheaper to make high fructose corn syrup and put it in a bottle and sell it to you than it is to pour a bottle of water in there. Radio Halifax, good to see you. Dude, that's the craziest thing, man. A can of pop costs more than a bottle of water. Or costs less, rather. Costs less than a bottle of water. Like, you want a bottle of water, you're going to spend more for that bottle of water than you will for a can of Coke. That's just ridiculous. Larry writes, these ultra-processed foods are just as bad as red meat. Is red meat actually all that bad? I know some people will die on this hill, right? Are you one of those people, Larry? Are you going to die on that hill? That you're going to die on the hill of like red meat is bad for the human spirit or the human soul or the human body? I know that there's somewhat of a debate surrounding red meat. And I don't know where I land on it. I can tell you the ultra processed food, I'm completely 100% just like, yeah, like if you read the package and it's got stuff like flavoflane, bioxyphate, you know, like, yeah, try not to eat that, you know, like just sidestep that as much as you can and you're probably going to do okay. Dude, bottled water is the dumbest shit I've ever seen in my life. It really is. Like, anytime I sell a bottle of water, I'm just like, and you're a dummy. Like, literally, let's take a thing that comes out of a tap in your house, put it in a bottle, and sell it to you for 5 times the price. Like, straight up, and even stupider is like my establishment. We've got like a water container. We put it a filtered water machine that is available to the public. You can literally just get a bottle, put the water in there, drink it, and it's just as good as the bottled water. We give it to you for free. Yeah, I'll spend $5 for a bottle of water, please. It's better because it's wasteful. Larry, is there a place you could point me to? Red meat is a group 2 carcinogen? Group 2A carcinogen. No kidding, eh? Hold on. Let's do this. Red meat is a group 2A carcinogen. Let's go. From cancer. Carcinogenicity, this is from the World Health Organization, so here we go, of the consumption of red meat and processed food. Okay, hold on. What do you consider red meat? Mammalian muscle meat, beef, veal, pork, lamb, mutton, horse, and goat. Great. What do you consider processed meat? Transformed, yeah, blah, blah, blah. Hold on. Yeah, here we go. This category is used where there's sufficient evidence of carcinogenicity in humans. In other words, there is convincing evidence that the agent causes cancer. The evaluation is usually based on epidemiological studies showing the development of cancer in exposed humans. In the case of processed meat, this classification is based on sufficient evidence from studies that eating processed meat cause colorectal cancer. How about that? Straight up, should I stop eating meat? Eating meat has known health benefits. Many national health recommendations advise people to limit intake of processed meat and red meat, which are linked to increased risks of health from heart disease, diabetes, and other illnesses. Yeah, I mean, like, everything gives you cancer. That's kind of the thing, isn't it? Right? It is just kind of like you got to pick your poison. There comes a point where it is like you just kind of got to pick your poison, right? I don't know. Like, I have a kind of everything in moderation sort of feel, and if you feel like it's not causing you any problems, then it's probably, like, is it causing you problems or not? Like, I know for me, like, I stopped drinking alcohol not that long ago, but I stopped drinking alcohol, and I even had a conversation with myself today about whether or not I was going to have a drink. And the conversation really surrounds internally, like, what am I getting out of it? What value am I getting out of having a drink and drinking? And there is a little part of me that's like, because it's fun, because it's fun. You get in that kind of woobly space, right? You kind of get in that kind of thing. But for me, that's starting to go away. I'm no longer getting that kind of fun, like, hoo 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 kind of thing. Or at least it's diminished, certainly. And then the after effect is really bad. Like, it like really is, like, I wake up the next day and I can't really function, and I've got a big headache, and it just makes the next day really, really terrible. And sometimes it carries into the next day even. And so it's just like, I just stopped drinking because, like, it's not benefiting me, you know? And I feel like I have the same kind of feeling about something like red meat. Like, I think that people should evaluate what it is actually doing. Are you just doing it because it's what you've always done? All right? I think that there's a good amount of people in the conversation who eat red meat because I eat red meat and that's what you eat. You just have a piece of red meat and that's what you do. It's like, have you ever actually evaluated that in yourself? Have you ever actually said to yourself, maybe that isn't valuable? Maybe you aren't actually getting what you think you're getting out of it? This is why I think fasting is so important. Why it's so important for people to every so often just have a fast. Take a day and don't eat on purpose. Like, literally just say, I'm just going to drink water today. I'm not going to eat anything. We're going to go through today, and that's what it's going to be. And there's all kinds of health benefits associated with fasting. But the big thing I think that it does is that it kind of resets things for you. It kind of says, like, what are you doing? Like, what is your daily habit? Like, do you just wake up and have some eggs? Like, is that what you do? And you just do that because that's what you are and that's what you do? And because eggs are bad for you too. Larry's just trying to take the joy out of eating. Larry's literally like, I wake up every day and I have a watercress salad and a nice rice wafer, milk and cheese, chock full of trans fats. Well, I mean, it's sort of weird, that like we drink the milk of another creature. You know, it is sort of weird. Larry, enjoy. Yeah, food is weird. Like, really, 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 like when you actually think about what it is that you're doing, and you actually go and you connect to it, and you actually think about the process of eating, right? It's the weirdest shit. It's the weirdest part about being alive. And it's one of the only things that the universe is like, yeah, you better eat. You gotta eat, because if you don't eat, you die, right? So it's a demand we've been given from on high. Like, it's not like you can't blame capitalism for this one, right? You can't sit there and be like, oh, those damn capitalists are making us eat food to make us consumers, right? Like, that's not how it is. It is absolutely a built-in, you have to eat, right? And so you end up in this kind of state of like constantly seeking out things to consume, and it's sort of weird because the universe itself was like, yeah, of course, there's a plant over there. Over there is a tree, and from that tree comes fruit. You can take that fruit and you can eat as much as you want. Just take it from the tree and eat it, right? Don't. And like, but now we've created a series of gatekeepers, and here's where the capitalist thing happens, right? It's the gatekeepers who like put a fence around the tree and say, the tree belongs to me. See, I have a piece of paper that says so, right? And I got a piece of paper from my father. I own the tree, and if you want access to the fruit of the tree, then you have to work for me, right? Like, that's like the whole system in a nutshell. And it's weird. It's weird that we have to eat. Every time I sit down and eat, I'm just like, this is odd. It's odd to eat. Some people really get into it. Like, there's whole cooking channels and cooking shows, and people watch other people cook food. And that's even stranger, because you can't smell the food and you can't eat the food. And so what you end up doing is watch somebody make food, and then you're just kind of imagining what it smells like and imagining what it tastes like. And then you watch them eat the food and they go, delicious. And you're like, I bet it is. And you're watching them do something that's intrinsically like not about any kind of visual aspect to it at all. Hey, Mikhail, how you doing? Yeah, I think it is just everything in moderation. It is, like if all you do is eat cheese, you're probably not going to do very well for yourself, right? Eric, good to see you. I always had fun thinking who was the first person who ate a poisonous food. Yeah, especially food where the exterior is poisonous but the inside is good, or vice versa. Yeah. Yeah, like, who's the first person that ate caviar? Like, who's the first person that, like, how did they come up with beer? How did they even come up with beer? Yeah, resist colonizers. I'm with you on this. Stop drinking because the hangover is just not worth it. Yeah, that's basically where I'm at. Like, and the fun part, we got Skade Frun is raiding with a party of 45. Hello, everybody. Oh, my goodness. This is a huge group that just came into my Twitch chat, right? Is that a Gibson? I wish, my man. I wish. I'm actually in a very fortunate position when it comes to my guitar that I'm about to get a roommate. And because I'm about to get a roommate, I'm going to have a little bit of money and I'm going to be able to actually get a new guitar. I'm really looking forward to it. I think I'm going to hang this one, the guitar I have. I'm going to hang it as a display because it's been a beautiful piece that's created some beautiful music for me. And I've been able to... the guitar that's just right behind me, it's just an Epiphone. It's like a $200 guitar I got 20 years ago. And it's just gotten too difficult. I don't know what guitar I'm going to buy. I'm literally going to go around and find that out. But anyway, enough about me today. Let's get into the news, right? Today's news is kind of thin, honestly, because it's more of the same. I complain about this all the time, is that there's 3 news stations. There's like 3 news stories now, right? How's your country doing slavery? How's your country fucking up climate change? How's your country doing war? Those seem to be the 3 stories that really actually matter anymore. We have, I think my favorite, this comes out of Vice. The Israeli government admits internal report recommending forcing all Gazans into Egypt. So there was a report that came out yesterday that got leaked from Israeli intelligence, and the Israeli government basically just said, yeah, that exists. Yep, that's our plan. Right? Israel has acknowledged that a government ministry drafted a report proposing the forced permanent transfer of Gaza's population to Egypt, fueling fears of a further catastrophic dispossession of Palestinians. The 10-page document by Israel's Ministry of Intelligence, dated the 13th of October, recommends the transfer of Gaza's population of more than 2 million people to Egypt's Sinai Peninsula as the preferred option for securing Israel's security at the end of the assault on Gaza. The document recommended that civilians from Gaza be evacuated into northern Sinai, where they would be housed in tent cities and serviced by a humanitarian corridor before permanent cities were built. Yeah, because Israel has a long history of not lying about this kind of bullshit, right? Yeah, just go over there for a little while. We're just going to do something here. You can come back. Oopsie daisy, right? Chances are good that the people of Gaza would get together and they would go along with this, and then they would just carpet bomb that area, right? That's what they would do. Oh, you're in a bunch of... Look, the Palestinians are in tents. We're certainly not going to just carpet bomb that area, right? Oh, yeah, we're going to build permanent cities there for sure. Oopsie, forgot to do that. A buffer zone of several kilometers would also be created along the border with Israel. Yeah, because Israel has a long history of being like, yeah, neutral zone, that's a thing. Oh, we're certainly not going to build a wall there. And then we're not certainly going to encroach that wall forward, right? That's certainly not what we'll do, because we've done it every single time, right? The report recommended that this strategy should be pitched to the international community as a humanitarian approach to minimizing civilian casualties in Israel's assault on Gaza, and be accompanied by a push for Arab and Western countries to also take in Palestinian refugees. So literally Israel's strategy, and it seems like it's going to work, by the way, because the entire international community seems like, it's a genocide, you know? What are you gonna do? Genocide. Really good point, really good moment to actually say, like, this is what a genocide actually looks like, right? That for years now, I've been putting up with capitalist hacks and losers being like, the Uyghur genocide is real in China. That's a serious thing. Oh, the Russians committed the Holodomor and they killed 1 billion people with an intentional famine. And the whole time I just keep saying, where's the evidence of it? Can I see any evidence for this, right? And this is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about evidence, right? Because when countries actually commit genocides, when they actually move forward and they actually say, hey, we're going to do a genocide, they actually say it out loud. And they go, we're going to commit a genocide. You know what we're going to do? We're going to round up those people and we're going to relocate them to another place forcibly at the end of the barrel of a gun. What we're going to do is we're going to take these Jews and we're going to put them into gas chambers. That's what we're going to do. And they say it out loud and they come forward with policy documents and they pitch it to the international community and they say, we need international support to deal with this genocide that we're actively pursuing. Right? That's what a real genocide actually looks like. That's what communists are saying when they're saying, do you have any evidence for this? Do you have evidence of this genocide? Do you have Stalin or any Russian bureaucrat at all saying to anyone at any time that what we're doing with the Ukrainians is starving them out on purpose in order to murder them? If not, then it's not a genocide, because this is what happens in genocides actually. Right? Do you have any Chinese official anywhere? Do you have a speech given by Xi Jinping? Do you have a speech given by Deng? Do you have a speech given by anybody? Do you have a low-level bureaucrat? Do you have an actual document anywhere at any time of any Chinese official saying that the intention of Xinjiang is to commit a genocide or relocate or purge these people at any moment, at any time? If not, it's not a genocide, because when countries commit to doing a genocide, they can't keep it secret. There's no such thing as a secret genocide, as you are seeing right now during apartheid South Africa. When apartheid South Africa was happening, the white ruling structure in apartheid South Africa was very upfront about what they were doing. They were very upfront about what was happening, and they were very upfront about what their intentions were. Because if you are committing a genocide, you are not of the mental quality to be like, we are the bad guys. The people who are doing the genocide think that they are doing the right thing and think that they are the good guys. That they are sitting there saying, the people we are genociding are clearly the bad guys. We need to get rid of these bad guys who are causing us problems as we invade their territory and are obviously the aggressors in all of this. We are the occupying force, but we have the biggest guns, and so might makes right, and so we're the good guys and they're the bad guys, right? So, hey everybody, we're committing a genocide, get out of the way or help, right? That's basically the position of Israel in all of this. It was the position of South Africa. It was the position of the Germans, right? That's how this actually goes. And so what this has done, right, for communists and for people who have been pointing out that the American accusations of genocide towards China and Russia are totally bullshit, what this has done is given us the perfect opportunity to basically be like, look, when Israel commits its genocide, it says so. Do you have anything even remotely similar coming out of China or Russia? No? Then I don't know why I should pay attention to you. Right? You're standing by as capitalists, right? They stand by and at least watch this happen, if not participate in it, right? They're watching a genocide happen in Israel. They don't care, or they're literally financially benefiting from it. They're actively moving forward with this policy of genocide, where the country that's doing it and the president that's doing it are explicitly outright saying that that's what they're doing and that's what their policy actually is. Right? So why should we bother listening to a single capitalist anywhere at any moment at any time when they talk about genocide from any other country at all? They're willing to tolerate a genocide in capitalism right in front of our faces. They're willing to outright explicitly plan it, organize it, execute it, and justify it right in front of our faces. So now they have absolutely no basis, no moral high ground, no floor at all, anywhere at any moment to point anywhere else at any moment in history and say, oh, they're committing a genocide. So what? So what? Who cares? Who cares if they are? Who cares if they are? We're watching you do it openly in front of us on national TV, no less. That you're justifying it on CNN and ABC and Fox. That you're justifying it on the national airwaves. You're justifying it on the fucking View. You're justifying it in front of all of us openly on national television, who gives a fuck if the Chinese are also doing it? Why does that suddenly fucking matter to you? Like, the unbelievable, ridiculous position that this has put the capitalists in means that we no longer even need to defend any of this shit. Although we should, because we have the moral high ground and they don't. Right? To be explicit and to be 100% clear about my position, the Chinese are not committing a genocide. The Russians under Stalin did not commit a genocide. That is my very clear position. But my point is to say that the capitalists have no right to even bring it up because of what's happened here. Because of what's happened here. They have no right whatsoever to even bring it up. That's my point, Larry. I am not saying don't pay attention to genocides from other nations. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the capitalists have literally no right to even bring it up because they are supporting an outright, overt genocide that's right in front of your face. Now, what's Mikhail saying? Join us, Larry. Oh, we're going into COVID thing. I'm not going to engage in that. You guys can have a conversation about that. I don't care to have the whole vaccine conversation. Yeah, go off, King. Thank you, Astron. Larry, I'm not talking to you, John. Honestly, I wasn't listening. John. Oh, I'm sorry, Larry. I'm my mistake. I thought that this was my show, but that's okay. You know, thanks for coming in, Larry. Thanks for tuning in. I understand, bud. I understand. The real Obi-Wan Shinobi. Oh well, my God. Thank God the real one is here. Yeah, capitalism works by any means. Yeah, nothing new. Yeah, someone took your name. I feel you there, bud. I feel you there. Yeah, good evening to you, Tinker. So, to finish up this paper, the report recommended that this strategy should be pitched to the international community. Details of the paper were first published last week by Israeli news outlet Calist. On Monday, Israeli officials confirmed that the leaked document was genuine, but downplayed its significance. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office told the Associated Press that the report was a non-binding concept paper, the likes of which are prepared at all levels of the government and its security agencies. The issue of the day after has not been discussed in any official forum in Israel, which is focused at this time on destroying the governing and military capabilities of Hamas, Netanyahu's office said. The paper's existence does not mean its recommendations are being considered by officials, reported Israeli news site Sacha Mekomit, local call, which was the first outlet to publish the paper in full, as the intelligence ministry does not create policy or control any intelligence agencies. Oh, you see, guys, they're just talking about it. They're not actually forming serious policy, right? This is just a brainstorming document. If a document like this came out of China, it would be 24/7. We would be seeing it constantly. We all would have had it memorized by now. They would have been shoving it in our faces so often that literally we would have been able to be like, yeah, Article B, subsection C says that under the direct, like literally everyone would be like a complete and total expert in that specific document if some brainstorming document like this came out of fucking China. Nevertheless, the report drew alarm from Palestinian officials. No shit. Yeah, those guys are brainstorming a genocide over there. It's not public policy, so it must be completely fine, right? Evoking memories of the Nakba catastrophe in Arabic, which refers to the mass displacement of Palestinians in fighting surrounding the creation of Israel in 1948. That's in reference to when 750,000 Palestinians were relocated with the help of the British. In 1948, right? It's an enormous genocidal moment that occurred from the occupying force of the Israelis, We are against transfer to any place, in any form, and we consider it a red line that we will not allow to be crossed. Nabil Abu Rudaniya, spokesperson for Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas, told the AP, "What happened in 1948 will not be allowed to happen again." The proposal will likely alarm Egypt, the first Arab state to recognize Israel in 1979. Egypt has not responded to the Israeli paper, but it is opposed to taking in refugees from Gaza, suggesting they should be relocated to Israel's Negev desert until Israel's assault on Gaza is over. Yeah, that's exactly what'll happen, right? Yeah, let's just relocate all these guys out into the middle of the desert and just abandon them out into the middle of the desert. They'll be able to come back, right? That's for sure what'll happen, right? The other two options considered in the Intelligence Ministry report were returning the West Bank Palestinian Authority to power in Gaza or backing another Palestinian regime. But these were dismissed for various reasons, including the inability to prevent future attacks by Hamas on Israel. Also, they are dismissed because that's not a genocide. We gotta purge these people. Purge these people. Is there such a thing as communism with a bonus system? I don't know what you're even talking about, bro. Yeah, he's just trying to say that Dengist reforms are capitalist and not communist. Yeah, it's old stuff. No, and pretty boring, frankly, at this point. Like, obviously false. Like, if the Dengist reforms and if the Dengist strategy, I don't even like to call them reforms, right? I think it was just a strategy. If the Dengist strategy was actually capitalist, then you would see China in the same kind of state that America was in, right? You would see a much more wealth inequality. You would see the persistent poverty that China was dealing with continuing to persist. You would see a lack of infrastructure being built. You would see enormous vanity projects by the rich and at the expense of the underclass, right? You would see billionaires getting away with all kinds of crimes. Like, when China had the 2008 financial collapse, when they had their version of that, they executed a bunch of billionaires, right? We didn't do that. We bailed them out. So the idea that China's Dengist period was capitalist is embarrassing, right? It's an embarrassing thing to say because it just assumes that, the Chinese started trading with the Americans, therefore capitalism wins. Or, crazy thought, here's an idea, the communists started to realize that a strategy of appeasement was probably better than going to war with the West. Like, the Soviets especially. The Soviets, I don't think, really respected, and this is my big critique of communists generally, is that they don't really respect the psychopathic nature of capitalism. They don't really understand where the capitalists are willing to go. They don't actually respect that, yes, I will come over there and I will murder 25 million of your citizens. I will do that. Absolutely. I am a capitalist. I will absolutely openly massacre 25 million of your citizens in order to destroy your system. For sure. Oh, you think your cities are sacred? I'm going to drop 2 nuclear bombs on Imperial Japan. You think I'm fucking around over here? You think I'm fucking around? Oh, you communist China, right? You're a communist country, right? Mao is building communism in China. Well, I'm going to start carpet bombing Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia and Korea. I'm just going to carpet bomb it indiscriminately. Literally just... I'm going to stare right into your eyes while I do it, saying I'm doing this to staunch the spread of communism, right? And so what do the Chinese do? They said, you know what? This war shit, like, America's serious. Like, they are going to fuck us up. Like, they are going to fuck us up if we keep pushing back like this. So you know what we'll do? We'll create a strategy of appeasement. We'll say, sure, we'll do all your work for you. Right? Bring your factories over here. We're not going to seize the means of production. We're going to trade for them. Right? So bring the means of production into China. And it completely worked. It appeased the American war machine. It appeased the psychopaths who rule America for a period of time, and it built up productive forces in China. And to pretend like that's capitalism is dumb. Like it is. It's just a silly way to view the world at all. Especially as we're going into this new period of time, this multipolar world moment, where the Chinese are doing exactly the thing that they said that they were going to do. Like, the Dangists knew that it was going to create inequality in their society. They knew that it was going to do that, and they said explicitly that it will need to be dealt with. And what's Xi Jinping doing? He's dealing with it, right? Very straightforwardly. That the people who are in the driver's seat in China are the communists. Like, that's who's in the driver's seat. It's the Communist Party of China. Yeah. China, well, and what the Chinese have really shown is how little the capitalists actually understand their system, right? That's the thing that it's really shown, if you ask me. That there are two types of capitalism, right? There's two capitalists and two capitalism. Sorry, there isn't two capitalists. There's two capitalisms. There's the capitalism of the West, and there's the capitalism as it's understood by the rest of the world. That if you pursue an understanding of capitalism from a position of reality, so you actually look at it like a science, and you understand how it works, and you understand the system and how it operates, right? So you take a historical materialist analysis of capitalism, well, that makes you a Marxist. Because those are the only people that actually do that. That if you observe capitalism from a historical, materialist perspective, and you actually attempt to work with it and figure out how to mitigate the disastrous outcomes that exist within capitalism, and manipulate it for the benefit of your own citizenry, that makes you a Marxist, right? So to actually acknowledge the scientific reality of capitalism is Marxism. Because Marxists respect and understand that capitalism destroys itself and is a destructive force, that unfettered capitalism is a revolutionary force, and that it can level societies and destroy it, while also simultaneously there is an engine to it. The analogy I like to give, and this is basically what the Chinese did, is that they respect and understand that fire is a useful tool. That you can take fire and put it in a fireplace and have a container for the fire, right? A fireplace, a brick fireplace. You can cook food on it. It will warm your house, right? It's useful to have fire. But only a fool, i.e. the West, would open up the fireplace and say, let's let the fire decide, right? Let's spread fire everywhere, and then the fire will decide what is good and what is bad, right? That's what the West has done. China has said, no, fire is fire. Right? So it's got pluses and minuses, and we are trying to work to a position where we no longer need fire. We no longer need to run everything with fire. So we're going to build a fence around this, and very steadily we're going to put that fire out. But only a fool would put a fire out until he had another way to warm his house, right? Especially if the fire was sitting there threatening you constantly, saying, "I'm going to come over there and burn your shit down." Right? So that's the Chinese perspective. That's the communist perspective. That there is a type of capitalism, and there is a thing called capitalism that can be analyzed and can be worked with and is real. That's not what Westerners do. The West views capitalism as a religious ideology, that there are priests within the priesthood of capitalism called economists, right? These people, their job is to prop up the ideology of capitalism and the religious ideology of capitalism. That pretends as though it is a science, but is not. It is explicitly a religious ideology. That justifies things like billionaires are fine because they earned it, right? But any scientific analysis of that shows that that's false. So there's all of the and there's this ideological defense of capitalism that comes out of the West. But what it means to base your thinking of an economic system in ideological dogma, it means that you're a moron. Right? It means that you're clueless and you don't actually know how the system of capital actually works. Because if they did know how the system of capital actually works, they'd be Marxists. So So they have to double down on stupid propaganda and dumb modes of thinking that lead them into pitfalls and make them stupid, because they have to defend fundamentally ideas like capitalism is the end of history, that there is a concept of capitalist realism, that this is it. We can't advance beyond this. This is the best humanity. This is just human nature. This is natural, and if you fight against this, then you're fighting against the very basis of human nature itself. And if you're going to make those kinds of statements, then you must be a moron. Like, you have to be purposefully dumb on purpose. If you are going to worship the hierarchy, if you're going to worship the system of capital as a religious ideology, then it means that you can't actually know how the system works, analyze it properly, and everybody has to bow at the altar. And if they refuse to bow at the altar of capitalism, then you can just carpet bomb who you like, because they're obviously evil and they need to be purged from the society, because this is a religious ideology, right? And so what the communists showed in China is that Marxism is a superior way of thinking about the system of economics and thinking about the structure. And they showed that very clearly because they basically did like a major judo throw on the West, right? The entire point of communism is to seize the means of production from the capitalist class. And the communists signed an agreement with the capitalist class of the West saying, oh, we won't seize the means of production, but we'll trade you for it, right? Send the means of production over here to China for cheap wages. Right, that was always the justification. The neoliberals sent everything over to China for cheap wages. Right, we'll make all the profits. Look how much profits we have. We made so many billionaires. Oh my God, we're so rich now because we are able to exploit the cheap labor of the Chinese. Well, in doing so, they shipped all their factories over there. They shipped their manufacturing over there. They handed it over to the communists and allowed the communists to build up their own productive forces doing it while hollowing out their own countries, which Adam Smith said was going to happen, right? Adam Smith said that this was going to happen. He hoped that it wouldn't because capitalists would have a home bias, but that turned out to be false because Adam Smith misunderstood the psychotic nature of the capitalist class and how much they betray their own children and don't give a fuck about anybody but themselves, right? Because another key component of the religious ideology is the worship of the self. That you don't even care about your own children. You just care about yourself exclusively. And you even create a religious ideology that justifies that and pretends like it's good, right? Greed is good. Everyone is self-interested, right? So don't even give a fuck about your own children. And in fact, not even giving a fuck about your own children is good. It's a good thing to abandon your own children, right? So, and this is how capitalists think, and this is what they do, that they worship money, they worship themselves, and they worship the hierarchy. And in so doing, it's rendered them completely stupid, right? It's rendered them completely idiotic, and they don't know how to actually use the system of capital. Because what you end up with is you end up with a bunch of economists, right, who are religious acolytes and don't know anything about the system that they're supposed to be governing. And then you end up with a bunch of business managers who graduate from business schools who basically manipulate like Walmarts, right? They basically run Amazons and run Walmarts, but they have no idea how economics works on the highest possible level. Because if they did, they'd be Marxists. And so you end up with a culture and a country that are filled with illiterate people who think they're educated, but really are just part of a priesthood that don't understand anything about the system they're actually running. Because they don't read Marx, they don't know anything about economics, they are stupid. Like the fact that any of these guys are walking around saying the invisible hand of the market will figure this out, when the only time Adam Smith said the phrase the invisible hand of the market was because he was saying it will be a destructive force. That if we arrange our economy like this, it'll be like an invisible hand comes through and destroys us, right? He understood that the invisible hand of the market was destructive. And the fact that these capitalists are walking around saying, no, the invisible hand of the market will figure it out, tells you that they are fucking death knights in a system of religious thought that has organized itself as a death cult. Like, that's what the capitalists are. And so the communists came along, said, oh, sure, we'll work for you for a little while, and basically bamboozled them, took the means of production away from them, right? Are now the manufacturers for the entire world, are building up their own productive forces doing it, are passing policies to ensure that everybody within the society has access to food, has access to shelter, has access to the bare necessities of life, is able to gain a certain amount of prosperity. So, home ownership rates in China are something like 95%. Here in the West, it's like 32% or something. And then the capitalists have the absolute audacity and their total illiteracy and utter stupidity to stand up and say, China is successful because of capitalism. Not in spite of it. Not in spite of it. That the Chinese strategy was appeasement and trade in order to avoid war that the capitalists were making very clear they were willing to wage. And the capitalists, because they were exclusively self-interested, this is Nixon and Kissinger and these guys, right? Because they were exclusively self-interested and they don't care about their own nation and they don't care about their own children, knew a good deal when they saw it. They understood that the deal the Chinese were giving them was money for them. And so they took it, right? They took it and said, fuck you to everybody else, basically. Certainly their own children. And the Chinese now are on the ascendancy and the American empire is on the decline because China is run by communists and capitalists. Capitalist land is run by morons, right? By definition, they have to be moronic because if they're not moronic, then they'd be Marxists. Anyway, so that was my big rant of saying, like, these people who are saying that, like, China is capitalist, like, fuck off. Also, John, how many Marxists besides yourself even talk about how China plans in the long term? Well, I tend to see, and I don't like to criticize Western Marxists too much because I think that everybody is trying to get it figured out. But, like, we don't have the right to criticize China as Westerners, right? We just don't have the right to criticize China. Like, it is like attempting to criticize a grandmaster of chess. Like, it would be like looking at Bobby Fischer or Magnus Carlsen or Kasparov, right? It'd be like watching a game of him playing, and every time he moved a piece, you go, no, I don't know about that, Gary. No, I don't know, Kasparov. I don't know, Carlsen. I don't know. Right? What do you fucking know? Right? Like, you don't know the first thing. You're a little baby. Like, you're a baby chess player. You're a little baby Marxist. I consider myself, in the face of the Chinese communists, like, the Chinese Communist Party is an enormously well-constructed, well-built organization that has obviously shown that it's able to withstand external and internal struggles. It's able to adapt. It's able to reform. It's able to identify problems and solve those problems with agility and with expertise. And the idea that we, as Westerners who have never experienced a revolution, who have never organized a successful revolution, who are still playing this game of trying to pretend as though our own genocides are completely warranted, who are still trying to get our shit together, who are still bickering about whether Trotsky or Stalin was right, who are still trying to get all of that organized, as if we have anything interesting to say at all about what the Chinese communists are doing. Right? The Chinese communists obviously understand the game better than we do. They obviously know what's going on better than we do. They obviously have the productive forces, and they obviously have the political forces in place to be able to organize themselves deftly, more concretely than we do. And so when we stand up and point and try to criticize, it's Western chauvinism exclusively. It's us saying, I'm a white Westerner. I know what's better than some Chinaman. That's 100% what it is. And the position of the Western Marxists, absolutely 100% across the board for sure, should be the only reason you should be looking at China is to learn from it. That is it. The only reason any Western Marxist should be looking at China ever at any moment, at any time, is to learn from it. Because you are the student and they are the master. And it's so obvious that that's the case. That's what's so embarrassing about this particular conversation. It is so obviously the case that the Chinese Marxists and the Chinese communists are obviously the masters. They have generations of masterhood, right? They have Mao, they have Deng, they have Xi Jinping, and they have all the leadership between. They have the structure of the National People's Congress, and they have the myriad of massive successes to show for it. It is obviously the case that the Chinese Marxists are the masters. And if you treat them like anything else, then you are just being a dumb, moronic Western chauvinist, and it's obvious. It's obviously the case. So if you're a Western Marxist being like, I don't know about China, time to shut your mouth and just watch and learn, because that's the only position you should take when it comes to China. China does it their way. They have the liberty to reinvent the wheel. That's China right now. Well, and the West just doesn't understand how China even works. Right? The West doesn't I feel like Western Marxists want their cake and eat it at the same time. Yeah, I mean, I don't know why anybody from China would ever take any Western Marxists seriously. How about we get our own shit together? How about we show us how it's done then? That would be my entire position if I was living in China, listening to these Western Marxists. I would absolutely be like, oh, well, show us how it's done then. Right? You're living in the imperial core. Right? You clearly can just have a revolution, right? Have a revolution, put it together. Let's seize the means of production. Let's go. Show us how it's done. No? Oh, well, we did that under Mao, right? We did that under Mao, and then we had to negotiate with the West, with Deng, right? And now we're readjusting and figuring out how to recover from this period of capitalist infection, which was necessary through diplomacy under Deng. Right now, we're trying to figure out how to do that and redistribute things into our society under Xi Jinping. And the next generation and the next iteration is going to continue that project. Right? That's what we've been doing. What have you been doing? Oh, you're still talking about Trotsky? Like, that for real. Like, for real. I don't understand why any Westerner at any time thinks that they can look at China and have anything to say other than, what have these guys been doing and how do we learn from it? We should read the works of Mao, we should read the works of Deng, we should read the works of Xi Jinping, and we should shut our mouths. Like, it's pretty embarrassing. There's also a free poverty eradication course offered by Tsinghua University, top rated for STEM in the world, and you should check it out, John. They lay out how they eradicated extreme poverty, and it's pretty eye-opening. Yet, China literally views poverty as a shame, especially in today's world where it can be easily solved. Yeah. Poverty is a societal issue. It's an issue of society. It's not a economic issue, right? Like from the economic like if it was just economics, we could solve this problem no trouble. Like literally, we just move some pieces around and we're done. But the issue is that we are dealing with a religious ideology, right? And if your religious ideology venerates wealth and says that, oh, you have $1 billion, therefore you're a good person, and says if, oh, you're poor, therefore you're a bad person, you must have done something wrong, right, to anger the gods of money, right? And instead just says, no, poverty is a natural outcome of a untended, like if you have an untended garden, you're going to get weeds, right? Like if you plant a garden and then you just leave it alone and you never look at it ever again, well, don't be too surprised when you come and it's been choked out by weeds, right? So you need to go through and you need to pick the weeds and you need to tend that garden. This is the big reveal that China has kind of shown the entire world, that the capitalist idea of free market, right, is essentially no different than saying let chaos reign. And then the Chinese came along and said, no, you need to have a plan. That's what you need to do, is you need to have a plan. And you need to make a plan, and you need to observe that plan, and you need to redress that plan, and you need to talk about that plan. And they're showing that that's a superior way of thinking. Big surprise, guys. that the best way forward is to have a plan. Who knew? Who knew? Yet capitalists need poverty. Where do you think the slaves are going to come from? Good opportunity to move into this whole conversation that's starting to happen here in Canada. Jamaican migrant workers. This is from CTV News. Jamaican migrant workers say they are treated like animals in an open letter under Canadian government review. The Jamaican government visited a number of Ontario farms last week after migrant workers claimed they were required to work like animals in an open letter currently under review by the Canadian government. The visits come on the heels of a tense season for migrant farmers in Canada's temporary foreign worker program and shortly after a group of workers in Brantford, Ontario, penned the open letter published on Justice for Migrant Workers website. The letter did not identify the farm, but an advocate for justice for migrant workers confirmed the farmers who wrote the letter worked at Kumiansky Farms. These bosses, they think of Jamaicans overall. They think of us as some type of a slave. The way they talk to us, the way they greet us. A 32-year-old Jamaican worker involved in the letter, who CTV News Toronto will call Alex, said while speaking with Kumiansky Farms, "I don't want to say they are racist, but I do think it sometimes," he says. The farm has not responded to CTV News Toronto's repeated requests for comment. Federal Employment Minister Randy Boissonnault's spokesperson said in a statement issued on Wednesday, the government is working to ensure temporary foreign workers are safe and treated with respect and dignity. But we know this is not always the case, they said. Jamaican Labour Minister Pernell Charles Jr. traveled to more than 10 farms in Ontario last week, beginning with Kumiansky Farms, pinpointing notable locations from prior reports, and visiting Queen's Park on Thursday. In a subsequent video, he vocalized his commitment to the rights and working conditions of Jamaican migrant farmers. "I just want to make sure that this month the issue is resolved, because we are all imperfect, but we are working to improve," the minister said. The letter, released on October 18th in conjunction with Canada Caribbean Community Summit in Ottawa, described bunkhouses infested with bed bugs and constraints on bathroom breaks, claiming these issues are not new. Open letters published in previous years, such as August 2022, have equated the program to systemic slavery in Canada. CTV News Toronto spoke directly to two of the farmers involved in crafting the recent document. Junior, a 36-year-old Jamaican who has been farming vegetables in southwestern Ontario for 8 years, said this is the year he decided to take a stand. "We say enough is enough. We can't take this anymore," he said. He said this season he's been denied a bathroom break while out in the field or in the packing house and told it's company policy to wait until an official break. But at times, Junior said he doesn't even have the time to go to the bathroom during his break because of the time it takes to transition from field to field. Alex voiced the identical issue. "The first time I didn't do anything, but the last time I punched out and stopped working," he said. "But I know with me doing that, there won't be any requests for me," he said, referring to the hiring process that selects farmers from Mexico, Jamaica, and other Caribbean countries. Alex has been working in Brantford since March, most recently harvesting squash and sweet peppers for the fall season. Since he arrived, his bunkhouse has been infested with bed bugs, he said. "When we got here, we found one bed bug, and when we spoke about it, they gave us spray and powders and removed a few bed bugs," he said, showing a red, irritated bite on his skin in a photo. He said the employers finally brought someone to treat the bed bugs only after Service Canada paid a visit to the farm, but the bugs came back. In response to the open letter, the spokesperson for Canada's Ministry of Labour pointed to Boissonnault's October 5th Senate committee commitments, in which he warned bad actors he will find them, and they will pay the price if they mistreat or abuse migrant workers. As the season nears its end for many temporary foreign farms, Junior and Alex said they fear the financial ramifications their families could face if it's their last. "The farm has a tendency to not ask you back when you speak out at work," Junior said. According to the workers, a fellow farmer who spoke out about work conditions to an official with the Ministry of Employment and Social Development last year was not called back. In the open letter, they write, "We have left our children, spouses, parents, siblings, friends, and other loved ones to come here. We came to this country to get better. We came for more than this low-paying job. We should have the ability to work in a place that treats us with respect. We are no different than the generations of migrant workers that came before us. Look, the reality is that the temporary foreign workers program is designed to be a systemic slave system. That's what it's designed to be. It's designed to exploit people on purpose. Its purpose is to take the most desperate people on earth and to grift them into this idea that, oh yeah, come here and work on the farm and then you'll move up and great opportunity in Canada, right? And it's designed to keep them in this permanent holding pattern from which they can never actually recover, right? That's the whole idea. It is a system of systemic slavery. It's designed to be that way. And the reality that some of the people who are abusing these wage slaves is that they're going to treat them badly, right? Slaves get treated badly. That's how it works, especially if you have a psychotic rich, right? If you have a psychotic rich who don't care about even their own children, of course they're going to take advantage of migrant workers from other countries. And of course they're going to put them in shitty bunkhouses full of bed bugs. And of course they're going to try to reduce their wages and cut their bathroom breaks and do all this kind of stuff. Because it's a system of systemic slavery in which the worker has no power, right? The migrant workers have no power. They're on this hook that says to them like, oh yeah, this will be a path to Canadian citizenship, which it isn't. Oh yeah, this will be a way to make money for your own family, which it's not, right? It's a system of systemic slavery that people get caught in, and it's designed to be that way. Welcome to Canada. Yeah, our temporary foreign worker is disgusting, yeah. Like, the big shift, if you ask me, the big shift, like the big thing, if you ask me, is it's clearly built into the larger system of destroying other countries, right? That we as Westerners go into other countries and destroy them on purpose in order to ensure that they can't build their own productive forces and their own people can't get their own jobs in their own countries, right? Because we're actively systemically destroying them. And then we create this system, and in this program we spread flyers around and say, come to Canada, look how great it is here, where we're completely culpable for increasing poverty in their own country in the first place. Like, it is a massive grift. And in my view, it's somewhat reminiscent of the Virginia coal mines, right? The Virginia coal miners, like, the way the grift works is that the owners of the Virginia coal mines would spread around leaflets saying, come work in the coal mines, high wages. And the wages were high, right? That was the grift. The wages were high. And so they attracted people to come work in the coal mines for these high wages. Oh my God, look how these wages are so much higher than you can get anywhere else. Yeah, but what they didn't tell what the coal companies rather didn't tell the coal miners was that, we also own the housing and we also own the general store. So if you want access to food and shelter, you're going to pay 3 times the amount. And we're going to set the amount of the cost of the housing and the cost of the food so high that the wage that we pay you is just going to go right back into our coffers. And you are going to end up actually in a position of debt peonage, which is exactly what happened, right? People would literally travel, and this is back before like airplanes and shit, so they're literally taking all their belongings and putting them on horses and showing up with horses, throwing their entire lot on this, only to find out that they're essentially indentured servants. And that's what this temporary foreign worker program is. It's a system of indentured servitude that cons people into believing that they're going to come and get a better life in Canada, only to realize that, oh, well, this high wage that they were promising doesn't even cover room and board. Like, it's a scam. It's a grift. Don't come to Canada. I don't know why anybody actually comes here. Like, unless you're actually looking at a country that's being bombed by us, right? Like, that's how the grift works. America goes and bombs some country, and then we say, come to Canada. We're different than America, clearly, except we're their little buddy, right? We're actually training the troops that bombed your village. Yeah, whenever I hear a politician saying more jobs, I just hear, we want to dominate you more. Yeah, exactly. Like, it's a system of wage slavery. That's what it is. It's a system of wage slavery. And anytime I say this, capitalists roll their eyes because they don't want the slaves to actually acknowledge what's real, right? That Abraham Lincoln was literally elected in order to abolish wage slavery under this system that we are currently under. Managed to do chattel slavery, right? Which, of course, adapted itself and changed itself into prison slavery. I got a little pug right down here. He's losing his little mind. Well, look, the system's going to flip itself. The system's going to flip itself, right? Like, it's not going to continue functioning. It's going to continue running. Can you have a source for that? Where the hell did I... I'll put it in the Discord, Bread Cultist. Let me look it up later, okay? The Noam Chomsky has given speeches about it, though, for sure. Like, I'll say that, Noam Chomsky. Definitely Noam Chomsky has talked about that. Well, then Noam Chomsky would be my source for that. These people do not want us to acknowledge that we are that we have basic rights. They don't want us to understand that the rights that we have are from a higher power, are from a creator. That we exist in the universe and we are spawned in with a need for food and a need for shelter. Right? Even if you're a secularist, I don't care if you're a theist or not. This is just true. You spawn in and you need food and you need shelter, right? Anybody here think they can survive out in the wilderness without any shelter? Anybody here think that they can survive anywhere without food, right? No. So we need food and we need shelter, and that's just built into the structure of the system. We can't not have it. And so if you are living in a system that takes all of the ability to make food and takes all of the housing and then withholds it from you, and says if you want access to the food and access to the shelter, which is obviously your God-given right to have, if you want access to it, then you need to sell yourselves to us, the people who are withholding it from you. Well, if you find yourself in that situation, you're not obligated to follow their rules. You're not obligated to follow what they call laws. That you have to respect what they say as threats because they'll kick in your door and they'll beat you about the head. But you don't need to respect them as laws because they're withholding food and shelter from you in the first place. So they're thugs. They're criminals. They're standing in the way of what is demanded of you by the very universe that spawned you in. And of course, the hacks among them, right? The capitalist hacks will say things like, well, then you go and get a piece of land and grow your own food. Can't do that. Why? Because the capitalists are withholding it. They own all the land, you dimwits. They own all of it. You can't just go squat on a piece of land. They own it. They'll send cops over there and they'll beat the shit out of you, right? It's amazing how dim-witted the capitalist death cult actually is, but they can afford to be because they've got all the money, right? They've got all the money. Yeah, it'll keep running even if it runs everything into the ground, right? That's nature. I mean, capitalism is not a natural force. Like, I'm just going to nip that right in the bud. Like, it's the idea that capitalism is human nature. It's like, no. Weird that something that is human nature only showed up 400 years ago. Weird that this economic system, which is completely human nature and is absolutely built into the absolute fabric of the human spirit, only showed up 400 years ago, right? Where are the examples of the capitalist systems that appeared in 1702? Where's the examples of like 17 BC? Like, where's the examples throughout human history? Where's the civilization that existed where the ancient Egyptians weren't capitalists, right? The ancient Sumerians were not capitalist, right? It's sort of weird to say that there's this natural system of capitalism that only showed up literally yesterday. Like it's really, really odd, right? It's really, really odd to me. And and when you do go back and you actually take a look at what ancient civilizations were doing, they were much more egalitarian. That obviously there are moments where you have, like, the Roman Empire was not an egalitarian place, for example, right? Because there's something wrong with the West. There's something wrong with us. There's something just wrong with our brains, where we actually think that the way to operate in the world is through domination and control and slavery, right? We just tend to think this way, right? That if we encounter an issue, clearly the thing to do is to destroy the other person, right? That there will obviously be no ramifications for doing that. So certainly you don't want to actually say to the other person, okay, let's try to find a way to get through this so everyone's kind of happy, right? How do we get through this so we can live in peace, right? You definitely don't even want to say that, right? It's a fight to the death 100% of the time. That's how we roll. And of course, how is this thinking going to do, right? Bolivia severs ties with Israel. Others recall envoys, other Gaza, right? These are the signs of war. These are the signs of a building up to a war. That lines are being drawn in the sand. Embassies are being closed down. Envoys are shutting down, right? These are the signs of a that will lead to a call to war. We already see, like, The Economist releasing articles saying, "Oh, what will World War III look like for investors?" Right? Like, we already see all of the signs in front of us. Meanwhile, climate change is just looming right in front of our faces, right? Climate change is looming right in front of our faces. The issue of the day, like, it's shocking to me that we're talking about anything else. It's shocking to me that there is any other issue that actually gets brought up with any significance whatsoever. And that if any issue actually exists, then it should be circled back around, and we should be asking, okay, well, that exists. How does that relate, and how do we discuss the issue of climate change within that conversation? Because climate change is absolutely something that is going to come and absolutely blindside us. Like, it's not going to blindside me, right? I'm seeing this coming from a mile away, right? But there are definitely, like, millions of people who are just going to be like, oh, what's going on? Oh my God. Like, and instead of actually using our propaganda system to actually talk meaningfully about the system of climate change and how to actually mitigate it and how to actually get away from it and how to actually organize our society in order to protect ourselves, right, from these yeah, exactly. It's not about class, it's not about climate change, it's all about she-they politics, right? We need more female imperialists. More girl boss CEOs. That's the solution. Yep. How can we monetize on climate change before we can say we can do nothing about it? Yeah. Pretty straightforward, right? Pretty straightforward. That is actually the way that they think about it. And it is actually the way that it actually works. Like, yep. World War III is happening because China didn't want to end up like Libya. Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's the Chinese fault that the Americans are like, oh, they're not letting us come in there and blow them up. They're not letting us come in there and dominate and destroy them. They must clearly be the evil ones, right? Like, it's and what's so embarrassing, and I'll say it over and over and over again. I'm going to say this talking point until finally I see it on CNN. And I'm just going to keep saying it in the hopes that it gets into the zeitgeist and that people actually begin talking about it with actual seriousness. Because right now we're a very unserious, dim-witted people. Solving the problem of climate change is actually easy, right? It requires the most meager, most pathetic, most tiny version of sacrifice any human species, any human civilization has ever done. Our grandparents literally went and fought Nazis. They got onto boats and went across the ocean and got shot at on the beaches of Normandy and stormed trenches, right? They were in foxholes getting bombarded by artillery. They lost life and limb and their very soul to the process of fighting Nazis. What do we have to do? We've got to take our toys, put them in the toy box, and go sit in the corner and think about what it is we're doing. That's literally what we need to do. That instead of getting into your gigantic World War II-sized truck, driving to a job that you hate and is pointless, in order to make money for a person you despise, only to turn around and drive home to a place you never get to see. Instead of any of that, we don't do that. That we feed the populace, because we produce so much food, we throw away 40% of it. So we feed the populace, we tell them to stay home, and we tell the whinging capitalists to, and this is very important, go fuck themselves. And when they cry that their little line is going down, we tell them, shut up. We don't care what you think, because you're psychopaths who are actively attempting to destroy us. And it's very obvious that you're actively attempting to destroy us. And so all we have to do, because here's the reality. Did you guys know? This is crazy. Holy shit, you'll never believe this. This is wild. It's going to absolutely blow your mind. Did you know that the Earth created us? Did you know that the Earth created us? And that the Earth created the forests and the rivers? Did you know that the Earth created the food that we eat? Did you know that? That the Earth is perfectly capable of healing itself? Did you know that it's a regenerative system that is perfectly capable of healing itself? And that all we actually do need to do is just stop polluting, and the Earth will solve the problem for us? Why? And why do I know that's true? Because we've done it before. That over the COVID period, when emissions dropped, we all have those images of nature taking over very quickly. We have all of those pictures. We have those memories of the Earth steadily and very swiftly healing itself over a very short period of time until we just kicked it all back up and started polluting, ramped it right back up again. And it's perfectly doable. We're perfectly capable of doing it. We just need to decide to do it. And why aren't we doing it? Why aren't we doing it? Oh, because we want to play with toys. That's why. Because Jeff Bezos wants to get into a yacht that's so big it needs another yacht to service it. So he can have a helicopter pad on a yacht out in the middle of the ocean so he can poison everything around him. He also wants to shoot rockets at space every so often, right? So that these billionaires can go blow themselves up at the bottom of the ocean going to watch the Titanic for some reason. So that Taylor Swift can get on jets and go around and sing songs about how she hates her boyfriends, right? That this is actually straight up what we are doing as a species. We are playing with toys to death. And instead of actually saying, hey, how about we don't do that? How about we don't do that? And we got people saying like, oh no, there's technology, right? No, there's a technological advancement. No, there isn't. No, there isn't. We are not going to develop a technology that is going to be superior than the planet. We are not going to develop a technology that's going to be better than the forces that created us in the first place. It's not about selling a product. It's not about creating something. It's not about designing something. We're not that smart or clever. Clearly, that is the case. It is about acknowledging that there are forces that are more powerful than humanity and submitting to those forces and saying, we're going to let the earth solve this one for us. Because guess what? The earth wants to. The earth created us. The earth created a garden for us. It created food for us. It gave us all of the conditions for our survival. It put everything on the table and said, here you go, humanity, right? All you got to do is play ball. That's it. All you got to do is play ball. You can have your internal little wars and you can fight with one another and you can bicker and you can do all the things. You can build whatever structure you want. But when it comes to dealing with me, you got to play ball. And if you're not going to play ball, then shit's going to go sideways for you. You got to show me that you're capable. Like, you want to become a spacefaring people? You want to go up into the stars and build colonies? You want to go to Mars? You want to tell the rest of an interstellar community that you're capable of actually being rational and reasonable and you know what reality looks like and you understand what's going on in front of you? Okay, here's your checkpoint. Here it is. Here's checkpoint 1. Are you capable of building an advanced civilization without explicitly destroying the planet that you live on? And the answer for us is no. No, we're not. We are not capable of building an advanced civilization without destroying the planet that we live on. And so we have to stop. We've got to stop trying because we clearly don't know how. And worst of all, and I think this is the worst of all, we're not interested. We're not interested. We don't care. We think that destroying the planet is fine and that we're going to do that. And so the earth is going to say to us very clearly, oh, well, then you get to go sit in the corner. You get to go sit in the corner and think about what it is you've done after I kill 5 billion of you, which it will do, and it won't have a problem with it. Right? It won't have a problem with it. So our choice is to keep playing this game where we think we're going to solve this problem. We think that we're going to create the master solution because we're so great and smart and clever, and we're not. Or we could put our toys in the toy box, sit down and think about what we've done for a little while, and watch the universe fix itself. Watch the earth heal itself, because it's very capable of doing it. And if you think otherwise, then you're a dimwit. Straight up. You're just a dumb person who needs to stop talking. We've had 200k years from upright sapiens. Dinos had 150 million years. The arrogance of humanity stems from an oversized brain that will let us die out and let another superior species take over. I mean, I make the argument, like, human civilizations have fallen into this kind of trap previously, and it's usually because we fall into a worship of the self. That we will say things like humans are the top of the food chain. No, we're not. Not even close. You understand? Like, it's not even close that we have managed to dominate a couple of other species, right? We're better than cows, right? We're better than chickens. Good for us, right? We've managed to corral and create like death chambers for a couple of species. And that's got us so full of ourselves, right? The earth, the universe, reality itself will chew you up. It is obviously the top of the food chain. The forces that generated humanity and created us in the first place are clearly at the top of this, if you want to call it food chain, right? That it's literally so beyond our comprehension that it's created a system that actually just kills us through natural causes and then chews us up and turns us into fuel and oil and dirt. Like, we are part of that process. And somehow we think we're not. Somehow we think we're above it and beyond it. And it's so childish in its perspective. It's so childish in the way that we think about our place in the universe, that we think we're the best. Literally, like, people walking around being like, oh man, they keep finding aliens. Why aren't the aliens coming to talk to us? Why do you think, champ? Why do you think? Like, and this is the best part. Like, this is the best part. It's like, oh no, you have to stay home for a minute. Oh, damn, you have to not go to work. Shoot, you guys. Oh, you gotta relax for a bit. Like, we would be all better off if we all just walked into fields and stared at the sky. We would be better off for it. If we all went to farm fields and threw in a helping hand for the small little fractional moment that one would actually have to do that to get the food that we would need, right? And then we could all just go sit and stare at the sky, right? Drink some tea, just chill the fuck out. Just chill the fuck out. Have a little siesta. Relax. And it's so built inside of us. We're so built in with this idea that relaxing is a crime, right? That relaxing is a crime. That somehow you're doing something wrong, and we have this intrinsic guilt built into us from the system of capitalist realism, right? That we have built inside of us the idea that if we rest and relax, that somehow we're breaking a law or a rule. And it's total nonsense and it's total bullshit. That we should be done with this system of capital that says you got to work your life away to betray your children to climate change. Absolutely destroy that system and destroy that ideology inside of yourself. Play video games, watch porn, jerk off, go dancing, do drugs. The system of capital has no position to tell you how to live your life at all because it's arranged itself in order to destroy you and your children. And moreover, it's doing everything it can to ensure that that's the outcome. Like, abandon this system. Abandon it as fast as you possibly can. Make fun of and spit at the people who commit their lives to it. Do not support a system of death. Do not celebrate the stormtroopers. Thank you for your service. Go fuck yourself. Abandon this system as fast as you possibly can. For clarity, Contin, and I want this to be clear, I do not hate Taylor Swift. I actually find her music to be delightful, and I think that she is actually a lovely person. I just think that she as a figure is absurd. Like, if Taylor Swift was just, like, doing what she was doing, right? I'd be like, oh yeah, great. Like, she's just singing about, things that young women would care about, right? And there's intrinsically nothing wrong with that, and I find her to be kind of adorable and sweet, frankly. But she is, by the force of her existence and what she does, exacerbating the problem. That she's getting on those fucking jets. She's spreading this shit around. She's causing the problem. She's becoming a billionaire. Right? Shit on Drake more? Sure. And someone like Taylor Swift is proof positive that the issue that we're facing is a system. That it's a system that we have to fight against. It's not the individuals within the system. That's why the system of capital wants us to constantly individualize everything. Because they know that if they can convince us that the issue is individuals, then we'll go after those individuals and not demand systemic change. That someone like Taylor Swift, who near as I can tell is just a lovely young woman that makes music that people like, right? even she can be this damaging force in the world because the issue isn't her. It's the system that she operates within, right? Radio says, John, the wife just told me to go F myself. I'm sorry about that, my man. Marital dispute. DM says, humanity does not want to play ball. Humanity will boil in its own stew. We choose not to be capable. Kiss humanity goodbye. I mean, certainly this iteration of it. Like, future societies are going to look on the ruins of New York and the ruins of Los Angeles and ask themselves, like, what the fuck happened here? What's the story here? Right? Like, we're like the same way that we dredge up the pyramids, and we're looking at the pyramids being like, how did they build this? Right? They're going to have similar questions of us. Chances are good, though, that the cities and the structures that we've built will actually disintegrate because we're not very competent. Everything was built in this kind of slap shot. Everything was built by salesmen, right? That it's pretty clear to me that the ancient Egyptians were building with purpose, with a desire to have their structures live and last a long time, to go through time, so that they would be discovered and that people would learn something about those ancient civilizations in an interesting kind of a way, right? That they were building with the purpose of lasting the test of time. Whereas all of our shit's just built by salesmen, and so it breaks after a year. And all of these buildings that they're slapping up, all these glass condos, right? The universe is going to chew those up. They're going to be gone in a century. Like none of these cities are going to last, right? None of these cities are going to live. Like, when the wind blows and the sand smashes up against it, they're going to shatter and break and collapse and fall apart. And they'll get crushed up and crumbled and turn into dust themselves. There'll be nothing to discover, right? Maybe people will find like an ancient subway system, right? But they're not going to find like the Sears Tower. Like, that's not real. Like, all of this shit's just going to turn to dust. John, you say that dealing with yourself is one of the hardest things to do. No. It is not one of the hardest things to do. It is the hardest thing to do. I don't know what that comment's in reference to, but I'll definitely talk about this. Dealing with yourself is the hardest thing to do. There's nothing more difficult than that, which is why people throw themselves into their work, which is why people throw themselves into all kinds of ridiculous pursuits. Right? It's why people project things onto other people in relationships. It's why people do all this kind of stuff, because it's much more difficult to just deal with yourself and to just acknowledge that you're wrong and acknowledge that you're flawed, right? Acknowledge that there's something wrong with you, that you need to address something in yourself, right? It's a much more difficult thing to do. Us putting our toys away and taking a break and stopping doing climate change. Yeah, I guess that's an interesting point, Bread Cultist. Like, I suppose that it's difficult for us to do because we don't want to confront ourselves. We don't want to confront that the solution is actually easy, right? Like, that's what's funny, is that the action, I suppose, is easy. The act of doing it, just don't do it. Right? The act of doing it is actually quite straightforward. But it requires an internal change in the way that one looks at themselves and the world around them. Like, the big truck thing is absolutely just on the nose. So it's the easiest example to talk about, right? A person who is driving around in a truck that's bigger than a World War II tank, right? While not working a job that requires it, they are projecting themselves into the world through that vehicle. That they are sending their insecurities out into the world through driving this big gigantic truck. And to tell a person who has chosen to identify themselves in such a manner, has chosen to say to the world, I'm the guy with the big truck, right? To tell them to stop, well, that's confronting their insecurities. That's confronting them in a way that they are not ready to confront themselves over. They're not ready to say, well, if I'm not the guy with the big truck, then who am I? Right? But it's true. Like, I know I said it stupidly, but it's true. If I'm not the man with the big giant truck, then who am I? If I can't show everyone how successful I am because I'm driving this big gigantic truck, then how do I show people I'm a successful person? How do I convince people that I'm a powerful person? Right? Well, is that even valuable? What value does that have? Right? And so you're right. The act of doing it is simple, but to do it would require a society that is ready to self-reflect and is ready to actually look at itself and is ready to actually say, what is it that we have done wrong? And it isn't. It's not ready for that. It's not ready for that. That it needs to be taught that lesson, and it will be taught that lesson, and it's going to be swift and it's going to be brutal. Yep, modern concrete won't last. Yep. Glass doesn't last. Like, some of this steel infrastructure might, right? But it's doubtful that it'll stay together, right? So you'll just have piles of steel. Dealing with yourself is the hardest thing to do, which is the irony of a society that fetishizes the individual without confronting itself most of the time. Yeah, like, the worship of the self is not about dealing with itself. It's about defining oneself through money and the hierarchy, right? That's why it's the one of the pillars of the unholy trinity of the capitalist death cult is the worship of the self, because you're defining yourself not through yourself, right? You're not saying, I am here, I am part of creation, I am part of a creator. You're not humbling yourself. You're not saying you exist within a larger structure of equals, right? You're not saying that you are one of many, or that you are an aspect of the larger whole, or any of that. You are saying that you are the most important thing. Nothing. All of these other people work for you. You are the player character. They are the NPCs, and success is defined by how much money you've accumulated and your position within the hierarchy. That status and wealth is the only thing that matters, and that is how you define yourself. Which is why you can look down on people who have less money and less status. And if you encounter a person such as myself, hello, how are you doing, who doesn't value those things at all, who puts absolutely no intrinsic value on wealth or status, because those are man-made concepts that are inherently worthless, then you don't know what to do with me. You don't know what to do with people like that. And so you just say that we're losers and you just move on, right? Because you've got nothing else to say. Because the biggest enemy of the capitalist death cult, is a person who is content. If the capitalists were to roll up onto a society of people who were completely content, who were living in grass huts, eating fruit from trees that were around them, living in a peaceful society, and they were to roll in and say, hey, we've got products to sell to you, and we've got a new lifestyle, hey, here's a television and all this, and they said, but we don't care about any of that, we're content, then the capitalist system would die at its feet right away. Which is why capitalists work so hard to destroy those types of societies. Because they understand that that's their biggest enemy. You need a disrupted people. You need an unsettled people. You need people who are not content. You need people who are full of anxiety, full of self-doubt, full of self-loathing, who look in the mirror and see something that they hate. Because it's only when people are discontent that they can be sold a solution. And so what capitalists do is they create the discontent on purpose so that they can sell the solution to the discontent that they create. That if you want to become a true enemy of capitalism, if you want to become a true warrior against the system of capital and watch capitalism die at your feet, become content. Find a way to live with yourself in such a way that selling a product to you would have no value. You would look at the thing that they were selling and say, it's completely unnecessary. It's not of value. It doesn't increase my quality of life. I don't need it. I don't need the big fucking truck. I'm happy taking the transit. I don't need the big fucking house. I couldn't afford it anyway. I'm happy with a small apartment. I live so close to the beach, I can just go see the glory of creation anytime I want. I can just go down there right now if I want to, right? And just spend time looking at the sky. What do I need your TV for? I don't understand. Like, that's how you become a true enemy of capital. That's how you become a true fighter of capital. You just stop being a person who they can sell shit to. Talking about consumerism, which is fair enough, part of modern capitalism. No, consumerism is a natural aspect of capital. Like, it needs to. You can't have capitalism without consumerism. Like, it's how the system works. That the system of capital requires a consumerist society, because if it doesn't have a consumerist society, it doesn't function. Like, that's just the long and short of it. Yeah, the paradox of thrift. Steel will break down after a few thousand years. That will be around for millions. Would be our plastics. Yeah, plastics will eventually all just be plastic. Bread cultist, that's why we should support the conservatives, because the liberals want to take away our plastic straws and erase history. I know you're just joking, bread cultist. Like, yeah, the solution is to vote the capitalists. Keep voting capitalism. That'll solve it. Yeah, spokeswoman for the for TVE Israel PM just said Israel isn't targeting anyone but civilians. Yeah, I saw this, right? I saw this. It was a Freudian slip, but she said it. She was just like, Israel isn't targeting anyone but civilians, and then no, not civilians. Oh my goodness, anyone but Hamas. It's like, okay, Freudian slip. I don't know why they're pretending. Like, I don't know why they're pretending. They're outright saying it. Like, they're just saying it. Just say it. Like, just do us all a favor and stop playing dumb, okay? Just do us all the favor. And just finally stand up and actually say out loud, yeah, we're going to carpet bomb these people. We don't give a fuck. Like, we don't care. What are you going to do? Right? What are you going to do? Like, that's the thing about all of this, right? Like, what are you going to do? You're not going to fucking do anything, right? Like, the West isn't going to stop supporting this, right? It doesn't matter who you vote for. They're not going to stop. Israel has become far too important for the interests of the West, right? The very last thing that the West will do as it faces its own death, its own existential death, the last thing it will do is withdraw from Israel, right? That should you see a general withdrawal from Israel from the West, that is absolutely the moment that you can declare the West dead. They will not do it. And so I don't know why Israel pretends, right? Like, just go full Nazi, guys. Just go full fucking Nazi. Like, just straight up have a little symbol, have a little salute, right? Do the whole thing, right? You're already taking a religious symbol and perverting it for your own psychotic ethnic cleansing needs, right? Just go full Nazi already. Like, where's the Roman salutes? Like, come on. Like, this moment has been very clarifying. Like, very clarifying moment for everyone, right? Like, no longer can liberals pretend like they're actually like this moment is the death of the progressive movement. That finally we can take a look at the quote-unquote progressives and say, oh, you were full of shit and you always were. Right? You always were. You're not even willing to stand up against an obvious, overt, right-in-your-face Nazi genocide. Right? Zionist genocide. You're not even interested in actually fighting for people who are being genocided. The idea that you were going to stand up and for the working class and for working people, like, that's just a fucking joke, and it always was a joke. And let's get real specific. We're talking about people like Bernie Sanders. We're talking about people like AOC. Like, we're talking about these people. Like, they don't give a fuck. They don't care at all about you. They never did. They are playing a role. They are con men. They are con artists. That their job is to play at being Hulk Hogan, so that you'll go and vote for them within the system of capital. That's it. Like, that's it. That's all they are, and that's all they ever were. And this moment has been very clarifying for that. That there's no leftists. Like, there's no who's the leftists in America? Who are the leftists? I love it when they say like liberal left. Like, what are you talking about? It's just like this embarrassing position to take. Yeah, the ambassador of Italy said we must destroy all the Palestinians. Wasn't no slip. Yeah, big surprise. Like, a fascist party in Italy. Like, literally a person who says, like, Mussolini is great. Big surprise. Did you just call a Jewish state Nazis? Zionism is a form of Nazism. Very, very, very straightforwardly. That Zionism always was a form of Nazism. Now it's just become obvious to anyone but the most dim-witted of us, right? And let's be very explicit. Zionism is not Judaism. Zionism is not Jew. Zionism is not even Israeli. In the same way that Nazism is not German, that if you were to, if somebody were to say, you're critiquing the Nazis, you must be anti-German, you would think that that person is very dim-witted. So in the same way that if I say, yeah, Zionists are Nazis, oh, you must be anti-Semitic, I think that you're very dim-witted. I think it's a very dim-witted way to look at the world. And so, yes, the Zionists are Nazis. It is a form of Nazism, explicitly straight out in your face. And if you think otherwise, I think you are dim-witted or complicit. So you can pick. Mikhail writes, the paradox is narrowly speaking that total savings may fall because individuals' attempts to increase their saving, and broadly speaking, that increase in saving may be harmful to a capitalist economy, right? Like, yeah, you can no longer siphon wealth away into a parasite class. Correct. Like, if how you are arranging your society is constantly funneling money into a parasite class that ships that money off seas, and that's considered success. If you define success by the success of a parasite class, then yes, your economy will fail. But Mikhail, you're like literally describing to me the success of my system. That, oh yeah, it increase in savings may be harmful to an economy. Yeah, good, great. It'll kill the capitalist economy. Perfect. That's the goal. That's my stated agenda. I love it when people do this. I love it when people come forward. I'm not saying this is what you're doing, Mikhail. I'm just saying I love it when this happens. When I put forward an idea or a thought and people say, "But that'll destroy the economy." What do you think I'm doing here, champ? Like, what do you think this is? It's like you say to me, like it would be like Luke Skywalker saying, "Okay, I'll shoot the thing and then that'll blow up the Death Star." And then somebody goes, "But if you do that, that'll blow up the Death Star." Right. It'll blow up the Death Star. Like, that's what we want. We want it to kill the economy. We want it to destroy the economy. We want it to destroy the capitalists. That's what we want. But John, if you do that, the capitalists will leave. Right. The capitalists will leave us alone, which is the point. We want them to leave. Like, we want them to go away. And then we create a public bank that we all own, and we use that public bank in order to exchange currency amongst ourselves separate from the capitalist class and build up productive forces that way without capitalists at all. Because capitalists are universally parasitical and worthless and do nothing of value for any society anywhere, and are, of course, a net drain across the board. No exceptions. That the things they do are harmful. So be rid of them. So when people confirm to me that the thing you're talking about is going to destroy the economy, I say, good, it'll be successful. Perfect. Bex. Never liked being called a leftist. I prefer Marxist or communist. It is more accurate. Just as Marx called himself a communist to distance himself from the from the revisionist socialists. I mean, to me, the whole left-right spectrum has always existed in order to create a difference that didn't really exist, right? Like, if you are on the right, if you're on the right, you're a conservative, right? If you're on the left, you're a liberal. But you're both capitalists, right? You're both capitalists. It's just one capitalist wants to tilt their head and go, oh, and the other capitalist wants to say, shut up. And that's it. That's the distinction. You're looking at two people who fundamentally agree on every single issue, except one says, well, maybe the slaves could have a comfy bed. And the other says, shut up, they don't need a comfy bed. And that's it. That's the distinction. Both agree that slavery is fine. Both agree that it's necessary. And both agree that it's human nature. You can't get away from it. Right? They both fundamentally agree that the system of capital is a natural human part. Right? And so they maintain this left-right grift to pretend like there are differences between them, when the truth is that the differences are very slight and very minor, and most of the time the differences that exist between them are on purpose, specifically so they can drive wedge issues into the public so that they can justify the game that they're playing, right? Like, when Justin Trudeau and Pierre Poilievre are battling it out to see which one's going to be the prime minister, they both intrinsically understand that they're of the same class and they're on the same team. That what they're doing is playing a game, right? That Trudeau is on the side of the diversity squad because there's a group of people within the society that are like, yeah, diversity, pro-diversity, minority issues, all this kind of stuff. And so Trudeau comes out in blackface going, hey, I care about diversity, blackface, right? And then Poilievre comes out because there's a whole group of white people who are saying, I'm sick and tired of hearing about these diversity issues. Stop shaming us about these diversity issues and all this kind of stuff, right? And he comes out and he plays his little Millhouse game, right? Says what he wants to say, kind of points at Trudeau in blackface, saying like, "Really?" And everybody goes, "Yeah." And then we all vote, but it's just a vanity project for these guys, right? Whether Poilievre wins or whether Trudeau wins, capitalism wins, right? The capitalists win because they're funding Poilievre and Trudeau. And the issues that they choose to bicker over in order to divide the public are explicitly and exclusively for their own vanity projects, so that I get to be the prime minister. That when the bill comes across that says destroy the public this way, it's Poilievre's signature on it and not Trudeau's. That's it. Oh, I get my portrait up there now. Look, it's me. It's just a vanity project. Like, Poilievre is not really going to be the leader of Canada any more than Trudeau is the leader of Canada, or Harper was the leader of Canada. David Thompson has more to do with what happens in Canada than either of these guys, right? And nobody even knows his name. So it's pretty like the whole left-right dynamic is just, it's obviously a grift. Like, it's obviously a show. And so when you call yourself something other than a left or a right, and you actually say, like, I'm a communist, well, you're putting forth an actual ideology that is anti-capitalist intrinsically, right? You're saying, no, this is a subset of ideas that I subscribe to that exist outside of the paradigm of capital. Which is why communists never get included in the conversation, because they're so far outside the realm of reasonable discussion. Yeah, U.S. left is still right from a Euro perspective. Yeah. All you have to do is walk the Orthodox neighborhood of Mea Shearim in Jerusalem, and you'll see plenty of Palestinian flags painted on the buildings. Yeah, which is, again, this is why we create the distinction, and it's an important distinction to be made. That there are Zionists, there are Israelis, and there are those who practice Judaism, right? Those are distinctions, and they should be distinct. That when we are talking about the Zionists, we are not talking about Jews. There are lots of Jews that stand up against Zionism and stand up against what's going on, that are calling for a ceasefire in Gaza, right? And there are lots of Jews that are doing that, not just in the West, but around the entire globe and in Israel as well. Again, the distinction should be made just as you make a distinction between a Nazi and a German, right? You naturally make that distinction. When we talk about the Nazis, literally nobody stands up and says you're being anti-German, because we explicitly and intrinsically understand that, yeah, like Nazism was a political force, that the Nazis took over and ruled the country, right? Well, so too have the Zionists. And in the same way that the Nazis distorted a religious symbol, the swastika, so too do the Zionists distort the symbol of Judaism. That's 100% our position. And so I have absolutely no problem saying that Zionists are Nazis. But if you hear Zionists are Nazis and think this guy says Jews are Nazis, then you're dumb. It's just a dim-witted way of thinking about things, which the people who are committing the genocide want you to be dim-witted. They want you to stay a dimwit. They want you to think this way so that you can't create intelligent distinctions in your mind and understand what's actually going on. They want to pretend as though it's complex, and it's not. Right. Domino Big Boy. Right. Jeez Louise. Look for a video called Pro-Palestine Ultra-Orthodox Jews in Israel in YouTube. Cool. Yeah. There is the anti-Semitic definition laws adopted by several countries just to shut up criticism. Yeah. Well, and when you think about it, accusing someone who is critiquing Zionism of anti-Semitism is itself anti-Semitic. Because fundamentally what you're saying is you're saying that, oh, you're critiquing this specific group and this specific thing, so that means you're critiquing all Jews. So all Jews are the same, and you're anti-Semitic for critiquing Jews, because all Jews are the same, right? So accusing someone who's critiquing Zionism of anti-Semitism is actually anti-Semitic. But I don't think we should back away from this. Like, what we are seeing is obviously wrong, right? It's obviously a genocide, very straightforwardly, right? They're straight up admitting to it. Like, straight up, they're saying out loud that their intention is to do a genocide, right? And like, so what? Suddenly now we're supposed to say, oh yeah, I guess that's okay because it would be anti-Semitic to critique this? Like, geez Louise. Like, geez fucking Louise, man. And like, I have people who come in here and they say straight out that what is happening in Israel is harming them as a Jew, right? That Zionism is bad for Judaism. It's bad for Jews to have this very obvious Nazi leadership committing a genocide in the name of Judaism, right? It's obviously bad for them. And so to stand up against Zionism is to stand up for Jews in your own country, is to say, no, we understand that the Jewish population does not support these Zionists, unless they do, which there are, what is it, Bennett Bath or something like that around here? Definitely does, right? There are Zionists everywhere. Yeah, in the same way, not all Catholics are priests, but trying to say all priests are pedophiles is an anti-Catholic trope. Not all Jews are Zionists, but to say all Zionists are Nazis is... Nope. All Zionists are Nazis. All Zionists, 100%, if you call yourself a Zionist, you are a Nazi. Nazis are Nazis, Zionists are Zionists, Zionists are Nazis. It is not anti-Semitic to say so. Because to be a Zionist is to support the genocide of the Palestinian people, is to support a genocide. And if you're going to try to stand in front of me and play this ridiculous game that where what you are trying to put forward is the idea of the innocent Nazi. That's what you're trying to put forward. That there was such a thing as an innocent Nazi. I was just following orders. I didn't understand that what we were doing was bad while I pulled this lever to gas the Jews. Yuck. There's no such thing as an innocent Nazi. They should all bear the shame. They should all look at the actions of what their leadership is doing. And if they're unwilling to stand up and speak out against it, then they are just as culpable. There is no such thing as an innocent Nazi. There is no such thing as an innocent Zionist. Zionism is a form of Nazism. Zionists are Nazis. Full stop. The idea of Israel is disturbingly similar, if not outright identical, to Lebensraum. I mean, what have I been saying this whole time, man? Like, it's a form of Nazism. Like, we've got an apologist over here who is going to go away right now. No Nazi apologetics in my chat. Bye. We don't need Nazi apologetics in the chat. Goodbye. Like, tough shit. Like, I'm sorry it hurts your liberal sentimentality. Right? Like, if you are one of these people who has ever asked yourself at any moment in your life, what would I have done when the Nazis were around? How would I have acted? What would I have said? How would I have been? Would I have fought, or would I have just been a Nazi? Well, now you know. You know exactly what you would be doing. And I am going to tell you very plainly, if you do Nazi apologetics in my chat or Zionist apologetics in my chat, you're gone. No Nazis, no Zionists. Goodbye, you filth. You garbage. You total trash. Farewell. I don't need little Nazis coming in here saying, well, you know, the Nazis weren't so bad, you know. The Nazis did some good stuff. Go join the Nazis. Get the fuck out of here, you little creep. Like, creepy and weird. Especially now, as the country is literally just being like, yes, a genocide is good. Genocide is good, in fact. We want to take these people and send them over to Egypt and be rid of them. And carpet bomb them while we do it. Yes, that is what we are going to do. Like, no apologetics. No excuses. Fuck you. Get out. Yep, fascism is making a strong comeback around the world. Absolutely. Yeah. Is it fucked up to say that it seems like they thought the solution to ghettos was a giant gentrified good ghetto? They just want rid of them. Like, and let's come on. Let's be really explicit about this, okay? If you're sitting there being like, well, they're just going to take them and put them over here. Yeah, they're going to take them and put them over here and drop a fucking bomb on them, like they have always done. Like, at least now the people of Gaza have access to, like, some kind of shelter. There are hospitals, right? There's something going on there, right? What they want to do is they want to cleanse the land. They want to get into the tunnel system. They want to rip the whole thing apart and tear it all apart and make it so that there's literally nobody there anymore. And put all of those people in tents that they will steamroll over. They want to send Apache helicopters over and just gun the tents down. They're just going to just like put white phosphorus all throughout that tent system. Like, they're not just going to send them away and just be like, farewell, Palestinians, good luck out there. Like, that's not what's going to happen. Like, it's an extermination, what we're watching. And I am more or less of the opinion that the big reason why this extermination campaign is picking up right now is because the West sees that public opinion is turning against it. It sees that the youth and people under the age of 40 are turning against Israel. And so it needs to get into a position where it can say, once the youth and once the younger generation actually seizes power, because the old guard has actually died off, they can actually just say, look, there's no two-state solution because there's no Palestinians. It was so long ago, you know. There's no point moving forward with a two-state solution. There's no Palestinians to have a state. That'll be their argument. Because the goal is to make sure that the military base that is called Israel stays there, so that America and the West generally can continue terrorizing the Middle East, which is the goal. Yeah, while they wear those yellow badges. I know, right? That was really embarrassing. Like, that was really, like, grotesque, actually. To use their own history of experiencing a genocide to justify their own genocide is pretty disgusting. Isaac says, Petro Columbia said, in 100 years, our children are going to ask us, why did you let the Zionists exterminate the Palestinians? He called the ambassador and cutting relations with Israel. Yeah. I mean, it's really obvious why we're doing it. It's so that we can continue dominating the Middle East. Like, that's it. Like, we want a military base in the Middle East. It is Israel, and we use it in order to destroy everything in the Middle East. That's how we roll. Yeah, but it was such a long time ago. Yeah, it's like arguing about slavery. Unless it's about Israel's right to be there. If it's Israel's right to be there, then Israel can say, 3,000 years ago our people were there. And all of these conservatives that say slavery happened so long ago go, oh, well, in that case, 3,000 years ago. Says so in this book that you were there 3,000 years ago. That's a legitimate claim that we should take seriously. Absolutely. But if your grandpa was a slave, this is so long ago. Malcolm X, he assassinated at the same time that the Beatles were on tour. So long ago. Ancient history. Oh, but the Israeli state has the right to be there because 3,000 years ago they were there. It says so in this magic book that they think is magic. Like, this is their argument. No, the argument against a two-state solution is that it would not stop the war. Official or non-official terrorism would continue. I mean, like, that's the current argument against a two-state solution. But their argument will become, there's nobody there to have a second state. Like, there's no Palestinians. That's the goal. Yeah, the Holocaust was 80 years ago. Why are you still mad about it? I mean, Israel itself pretends to be the good ghetto where Jews could be safe. Yeah, 75 years ago, all that generation is gone. There's no such thing as intergenerational trauma, right? There's no such thing as trauma being passed from generation to generation, even though we've scientifically observed it and measured it. Like there's no such thing as like if you take a person and traumatize them that they pass that trauma on to their own children and then they pass it down to their own children. That doesn't exist. That's not a real phenomenon, right? That 100% certainly exists. That you literally need to go like 200-300 years out before you can start to find generations that do not bear the generational trauma of their previous ancestor, right? Yeah, right. Just tell the Palestinians to move on. Get over it. Yeah, exactly. What is happening here? Hey, Sip, calm down. Jeez Louise, dude. Calm down. Jeez Louise. People losing their minds. Yeah, the book they wrote says they were there 3,000 years ago, but it also says that Palestinians were there before they arrived and took that land. But God said it was okay. That was the Holy Land, Isaac. So it was totally fine that they went in there and took it because a bush that was burning told Moses it was fine. So it's fine. We got a book that has magic in it with a God that's magical, and so we're good, right? It's good. We're the good guys. Yeah, no one ever blames Britain for this mess. You know what's funny, dude, is I actually have a meme that's kind of that kind of talks about that. It's very brief, but it's definitely true. Where did I put that thing? Come on. Nah, it's not that far back. There it is. How'd I miss it? Here we go. When you colonize half the world, kill hundreds of millions, but the historians only talk about Stalin and Hitler, laughs in British. Like, yeah, did you guys know that before the American Empire, there was a British Empire? I know, it's really, really hard to understand that how the fuck did this tiny little shitty island manage to take over most of the earth or huge sections of the earth. It's like, hey man, that's capitalism, baby, right? That capitalism is a psychotic death cult that just is so destructive that even a crappy little tiny island that has no real economy or no real ability to generate any kind of wealth for itself can go around and just dominate the entire rest of the globe. It's crazy, right? As a Brit, I could say this is all our fault. Our predecessors did this madness. We drew lines. People accepted it. Now they fight over it. I mean, this is the history of the West, though, right? You can go back to the Roman Empire. Like, you take a look at how much warring happens in Europe, right? Like, this is why, like, there's a contingent of people in my chat who are generally, like, against... We're all against NATO, but they're like, we should disband NATO. NATO should go away and no longer exist as a force. And I'm like, yeah, that basically means Europe will fall into war with itself. That this moment in time is, like, unique. There's, like, this unique special thing that's happening in European history where the European countries are not actually at war with one another. Like, unless you count Yugoslavia, right? Unless you count Ukraine. So even while they have this sort of federated body that they're all operating under, the EU and NATO and all this, they're still going to war with one another, right? So if you were to disband NATO, like, they would just go to war with one another again. Because that's what they always did, and that's what they've always done. That there is just something really weirdly dark within the ethos of the European spirit. That people who live in Europe, for whatever reason, are just like, yeah, fuck you, we're going to war with one another. We're just going to go to war with one another. We're just going to fight. It's just how it's going to be. And initially, it's somewhat believable that it's like the fighting would be kind of low tier, right? Mainly just assholes with like sticks and swords and shit. But very, very steadily, they invented gunpowder and all this kind of stuff. Like, World War One was only really called or considered World War One because there was a dramatic, sudden shift in technology. That Europe had done plenty of warring before World War One, right? The Boer War was very recently before that. There was all kinds of wars that were happening before that. But World War One was suddenly this big war because they invented a Gatling gun. Because they invented a Gatling gun and then they invented rifling so their muskets could shoot straight. And so up until that time, all warfare was just color-coded idiots coming together, standing in a line, pointing a one-shot musket at each other, and then bayonet charging, right? That's more or less how it went. People were still there with swords and shit, right? In World War One, people were still like sword on the hip, bayonet charge, get 'em. Well, then they invented the Gatling gun, right? And somebody rolled a Gatling gun onto the field and just started, and they all lined up in front of the Gatling gun, right? Because that's how you fought war, right? You lined up. So they all lined up in front of the Gatling gun, and the Gatling gun went, and they all died. Because they put a little bit of barbed wire around it, so the line couldn't just swarm it, right? So they had to deal with this gas. And then the Maxim gun, and so they started digging trenches. Exactly, that was the response. So they created artillery bombardment to get into the trenches. So they started putting on dumb little helmets, right? And there are all these advancements that happen. We even have journals of the generals of that day who didn't see this gun initially. They heard reports of it, and their response was, just send more men at it. It can't possibly kill them all. And the answer was, yes, it can. Yeah, yes, it can. We created a piece of technology that changed the face of war. And so what happened in war now is that war used to be two armies come together, conflict, lasts a day, one side wins, other side loses. There's a parcel of land that's usually ransomed, right? That was usually how it worked. That we got the land. Well, now we'll ransom it back for some gold or something, right? Well, now, in World War One, it took 6 months to get that land, because you had to dig a trench, right? You had to use deception and force, and you had to split your troops, and you had to navigate. And there's aerial bombardment. And there's all this kind of stuff going on all of a sudden in World War One. Not to mention like mustard gas. Not to mention fucking flamethrowers and shit that they did before the Geneva Conventions, right? And so they World War One introduced this like horrific industrial force into war that hadn't really existed previously, and and so instead of taking a day to take a parcel of land, it took you 6 months, and you destroyed the land while you did it. And so when you got the land, you said, absolutely not, I'm not giving that back. There's no fucking way I'm giving you that land back. It took us 6 months and blood and soil and wealth to get that land. We're keeping it. And if you want it, you can come and get it. Tough shit. So the whole thing changed. And then we loved World War One so much that we decided to do it again. Only this time there were tanks, airplanes, right? Like it just got fucking crazy. Just got fucking crazy. Yeah, no amount of ransoming is worth the cost of capturing the land. Yeah, you'd think they'd give up on trying. Oh yeah, flamethrowers were American too for the Pacific theater of war in World War II. Yeah, like when it comes to the Southeast Asia, like Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, Korea, it's pretty obvious that there were no rules, right? It was just indiscriminate. They didn't give a shit who they were killing. They didn't give a shit who they were bombing. They didn't give a shit. They were going in there and they were going to lay waste to it and they were going to destroy it, and they did, right? And they fucking did. There's something like 20,000 undetonated mines in Laos, still killing people to this day. It's just like absolutely fucking ridiculous what's going on. And yet we're supposed to be convinced that communism is the problem. Like, just unbelievable. Even before this gun, the Dre's needle rifle shortened reloading so much that amateurs could defeat veteran soldiers who used muzzle loaders their whole life. In 1840, 469 kilometers of German rail had been built. By 1870, this figure had increased to 17,215. By 1914, there were 61,749 kilometers of rail. The Second World War. Yep. Yeah, they're still having disputes. Spain and Catalonia, yeah, of course. Like, it's... And this is all just like Western history. That the history of the West is just one of endless, godless war, and they can't seem to stop. They don't seem to understand how to stop. And what's crazy, this is actually really crazy what's about to happen, is that, I'm going to bring up Google Maps for this conversation. We are still living in a post-colonial period, right? This post-colonial period, where the great powers of Europe got together and had a conversation with one another. And the conversation that they had was, how are we going to split up Africa? And they literally drew lines in Africa and said, okay, Germany, you get this section. France, you get this section. England, you get this section, right? We're doing it this way so that we each get a piece of it, because Africa is so fucking huge and we don't need to have wars with one another, right? We can just agree that each of us owns a section of it and benefit our countries that way. Well, those arrangements, right? And then they went in and they fucking conquered it and they did it. Those arrangements still exist, right? So places, I think Niger is the big one that was in the news recently. Niger is still giving money to France. It's still sending wealth to France. And a lot of these places are doing that, right? And there's a lot of leadership all throughout Africa that are just like, why? Like, why? Why are we doing that? Why are we not keeping that wealth for ourselves and building up our own productive forces and building up our own countries and our own economies? Why are we sending it to Europe? And so there's a shift that's happening, being helped along by China, of course. China is building the Belt and Road Initiative into Africa specifically to get that wealth to pivot away from Europe and get it sent towards China, with the promise that the Africans get to benefit themselves, which China is probably going to make good on. Right? Because China understands there's such a thing as win-win diplomacy, whereas Europe does not respect that idea at all. And what's going to happen to Europe? Some of these European countries, France comes to mind, right? Their entire economy relies on this colonial wealth flowing in. Their entire economy relies on the idea that there are slave states in Africa who work on behalf of Europe while the Europeans do nothing of value whatsoever. And when that relationship changes, suddenly France is going to go broke. It's not going to have any wealth coming in. Certainly not generating any wealth for itself. And the same is going to be true of the United Kingdom, Spain, Germany, Italy, all of these places. Suddenly their cash cow is going to dry up. Right? And the people here are actually going to organize. And on top of that, they're going to have strong allies. Strong allies. Like, the bullies on the stage are going to get thrown out of Africa. And when Africa ascends on the world stage, it's going to completely change what's going on. Right? It's going to completely change what's going on the world stage. And trust me, the West is not going to be part of it. The West is not. The West is going to show up and be like, "Hey, can we trade for some of that stuff?" And the rest of the world is going to say, "For what? Dollars? We don't give a fuck about your dumbass dollars." And that's going to be the end of it. Like, the American empire is over with that. The European nations are fucked with that. And if history shows, is any indication, when that happens, these countries are going to go to war with each other. They're going to fall and collapse into an internal war. America will balkanize. It also will fall into an internal war. New lines will be drawn up. The United States of America will recede. It will cease to be the United States of America, and there will be a new body that exists, if not multiple new bodies that exist. Like, it's, and let me be real clear to those who are hearing this maybe for the first time and thinking about that for the first time, who are thinking, wow, that seems unlikely. That's the most likely thing to happen. If history is your guide. When empires fall, when empires go down and descend, they balkanize. Every empire in the history of empires has balkanized, which means that they break apart, that their larger federal bodies cease to be federated and they lose control. It will happen in the United States and Canada, that the federal government will lose its credibility and no one will pay them taxes anymore because they won't have the credibility any longer to govern. And it's definitely happening in the United States. Like, I think when people saw Trump in office, I think that finally made people recognize, oh shit, yeah, this whole thing is very fragile. Right? This whole thing is very, very fragile. The real Obi-Wan Shinobi, Western Europe isn't going to war when it happens. What happens is that the U.S. will declare war on everyone that doesn't support the dollar. So that will make them isolated, right? Like, really, really think about what you said. Like, really think about what that means. That's quite literally the United States against the rest of the entire world. You can't win that war. You can't. Like, right now, at this moment, sure, the United States has this incredibly powerful military, but it's depleting all of its forces going into Ukraine. It's depleting all of its forces in the Middle East. It's depleting all of its forces. It can't confront China and it can't confront Russia. It literally can't. Like, it doesn't matter how much more spending they do. It cannot confront these countries. Because if it confronts these countries aren't just going to be like, oh no! Oh, dearie me, I cannot believe that the Americans would come here. Oh, dearie, dearie, dearie me. If America hits China, say goodbye to San Francisco. Like, goodbye to San Francisco. Say goodbye to Las Vegas. Say goodbye to Los Angeles, San Diego. Bye-bye. Like, say goodbye. If the Americans start straight up attacking China, you think it won't happen? It definitely will. How much support do you think California is going to give the federal United States if they experience that kind of bombing that we're talking about? Right? And what, you think China can't? What a fucking joke. Of course they can. Like, of course they fucking can. A bunch of loonies from fucking from Saudi Arabia were able to get into 2 planes and knock over the Twin Towers. Yeah, the entire force of the Chinese military is definitely going to lay waste to the west coast of America if a war between these two bodies begins. And to think that won't happen is completely clownish. So the United States cannot start a war with China directly. That what we are seeing is economic warfare, right? And the United States is doing everything it can to slow China down while failing to recognize that it also needs to build itself up, right? That if you actually wanted to compete with China as it ascends, then you also need to go on the ascendancy and you need to build infrastructure, right? But capitalists can't do that because they're too dim-witted and they don't know their own system. They don't understand how the system actually works. They literally think that they can just bomb faster than the rest of the world can build. That 300 million people will be able to defeat 8 billion people. Like, this is what they think. This is how they think. It's stupid. No, you won't. If those 8 billion people join forces with themselves, which they are doing, and you declare war against all of them, then you're the isolated one. And if you start throwing sanctions down on everybody, then you're the isolated one. And you lose that war. The Americans lose that war. Badly. It's not close. Right? They might destroy a lot of shit. Right? Because that's what Americans are good at. But they're not going to win. Because Americans have never won a war. Like, what war has America ever won? Right? They like to try to take credit for World War II, but the Soviets won that war. The Americans just showed up to make sure the Soviets wouldn't walk to Spain. Like, what war did America win? I guess the Civil War, if you really want to call that a win. We need to focus as a country on the rejection of the monarchy. Yeah, always good. Yeah, the French and British are being and have been pushed out of Africa by Chinese and American companies. Well, and more, anytime I listen to any leader from Africa, they say it over and over and over again. There's a deep skepticism about China. African leadership is skeptical about China. They are worried that China will just become another imperialist force. Absolutely, and it is possible, right? But then they do say, but the Chinese are giving us the best deal, right? That what the Americans and the Europeaners do is they come in and they say, here's the deal, take it. And if you say no, then they try to coup your government. The Chinese come over and they say, hey, here's a deal. And they say no. And then the Chinese say, oh, okay, here's another deal. And then they say no. And then China goes, here's another deal. And China just keeps offering deals until finally an agreement of some sort is reached. Because China believes in win-win diplomacy. Because they believe in the idea that a deal that is maybe slightly more beneficial for Ethiopia, right, is still better for China than going to war with Ethiopia, right? And every time I listen to any African leader, this is the story they tell. That China is coming in and offering deals and trying to make deals and is trying to get involved for the benefit of the country that they are dealing with. And obviously the benefit of China, but not at the expense of Ethiopia or Sudan or Chad or any of these places. Not at their expense. In fact, they're trying to help them build up productive power. Compare that to what goes on in Europe. Compare that to what goes on in the United States. It's not difficult to see which way the wind is going to blow. It's not difficult to figure out which way Africa is going to pivot. And Africa has so many resources. Like this is just an absolute prize. Why do you think the Europeans went down there? Why do you think they conquered it? Right? So if they lose control of it, that is a dramatic shift. That's a dramatic shift. And I don't know how the United States keeps control of it. Right? It can't carpet bomb the entire planet into submission. It just can't. They don't have the population. They don't have the resources. The rest of the world can build faster than they can bomb. That the United States is isolating itself. And it will be isolated. Because it's proven to itself that it's untrustworthy. It's proven to everybody that it can't be negotiated with or dealt with. And why not? Because they're capitalists. That's why. And they're psychos. And they need to be isolated. They need to be put in a corner. And they will be. China and Russia are both paper tigers. What a joke. What a joke, Jimmy Long. I'm so sorry, dude. That's a total fucking joke. If you think that way, then you don't know the first thing about China. That's a complete and total joke. China's ascendancy has been so swift and so fast that it has caught the rest of the world off guard. It's literally built 600,000 kilometers of high-speed rail. We don't have a single. That's paper tiger. 600,000 kilometers of high-speed rail is a paper tiger. Get fucking serious. They've built cities out of nothing. That's a paper tiger? Get fucking real. Like, you just don't know anything about China if you're saying that kind of dumb shit. Some of the stuff you guys say in the Twitch chat, man, it's really wild. It's really wild. The Spanish-American War. Oh, thank you, Bread Cultist. Some wars that the Americans won. The Spanish-American War. The American Revolutionary War. Good point, actually, Bread Cultist. They defeated their own colonizing force, right? That they colonized and then turned around and threw those guys off. So you're right. The Americans defeated the British. That's right. All the Indian wars. Yeah, that's fair. That's right. So when it comes to genocide, America's the best. But when it comes to actually fighting like established nations, right? It's not so good. Doesn't really know what it's doing. China is nearly impossible to invade on the ground. They set up so many stuff there. Honestly, dude, like, I just don't think that people respect or understand exactly what China's, like, China's military capabilities are going to be, like, so much more advanced than I think people are prepared for, right? Like, the thing that makes China so interesting is that because it's a 4,000-year-old civilization, because it has all of this intelligence about it, because it knows things, right? Because it actually reads philosophy, and they actually are intelligent, and they have systems to make their citizens intelligent, as opposed to us that does the opposite. Because they have that, like, they read things like Sun Tzu's Art of War, and they go, instead of us who are like, Sun Tzu's Art of War, that'll be good for business. I'll make a lot of money with that. Right? Like a bunch of dumbasses we are. Like, Sun Tzu's Art of War became popular on Wall Street in the 80s because we're stupid. Right? The Chinese read that and they see Sun Tzu saying, yeah, don't tell people what your plan is. Right? Like be secretive, be deceptive, use deception. And so the Chinese are not like carting out all of their technology and showing it to everybody. They're not saying, hey, here's how we're preparing for war. These are all the tools we have in order to fight this war, right? And moreover, they're not like Americans. They're not dimwits, right? They're not stupid. They haven't been spending the last 80 years invading defenseless nations thinking that they're the cock of the walk. They've been preparing a military force in order to fight the Americans. They've been watching what the Americans have been doing. They've been looking at the American technology. They've been watching the road shows. They've been paying attention to the military reports. They've been listening to the Pentagon. They've been listening to the CIA. They've been listening to the FBI. They've been paying attention to the State Department. They've been investigating, right? They know what's going on. So that if the Americans are to invade, they have thoughts about how to defend that. And the idea that America is going to roll into a country of 1.5 billion people who are completely prepared for that and be successful, get the fuck right out of here. Get the fuck right out of here, right? Jimmy Long, China hot air balloons. Yeah, how embarrassing for you, my man. You know, Sip, I got to tell you, every time I look over, you're saying something like that. Just basic politeness, okay, my man? Just learn what basic politeness is and figure it out, okay? I don't really care what your positions on anything are. Bye-bye. Being basically polite. Oh no, that was Victor. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. I actually didn't mean to ban this guy. Oh shit. This was the guy I meant to ban. I think what happened is it slipped down. Hold on. Let's get rid of this guy. Goodbye. And Victor, I'm so sorry. Hold on. Can I fix this? Can I fix this? Oh no. Oh no. Oh no, I feel bad. I do. I genuinely feel bad. Someone help me. Oh no, I banned somebody and I didn't mean to ban them. And I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to fix it. Victor Spade 89. I accidentally banned you on Twitch and I don't know how to solve it. And I'm going to see if I can solve it after the chat, okay? I'm going to be done in 15 minutes. And then I'm going to try to solve that problem. So I apologize. This was accidental. I feel real bad. And I'm going to see if I can solve that. So, sorry, bro. Oh, fuck. Whoops. Western Marxist critique of this essentially boils down to China doesn't do all of this for free. Yeah, so? Like, I don't know why that's supposed to be bad. Like China, China's trading. Like, I don't get this. Like a country has a lot of wealth and is deciding to open up trade negotiations with the rest of the world. And I'm supposed to clutch my pearls and go, goodness me, I can't believe that they're trading. Trade is peace. Like, this is a basic principle. If you are trading with a nation and it's being done through negotiation and you're talking about it, right? Trade is peace. Compare that to how the Americans operate or how Europe operates, where they just go into a region, carpet bomb the shit out of it, enslave a population, throw them into mines and tell them to give us their stuff. Like, it's again, it's just Western chauvinist bullshit, right? It's just a bunch of fucking Western chauvinists. China sure had a hard time handling COVID. What are you talking about? Like, China's COVID numbers were better than ours. China was well ahead of COVID. They actually did things. And when the populace started to grumble about it and started to protest about it, they actually responded. Like, China did a much better job with COVID than we did. Like, by a lot. It wasn't actually close. Oh, well, resist colonizers if you think so. You've become something of a staple and a regular, and I think that we share a spirit, so I'll trust you, my man. Ruined their economy with lockdowns. I mean, ruined the capitalist economy. Yeah. See, Jimmy, I can tell you're one of these people who think the economy is this sacred thing, right? That if capitalists are making money, then everything is good. Doesn't matter if 2 million people die, right? Who cares about them? I'm making money, right? So 2 million people can die. 3 million people can die. China's a population of like 1.5 billion people. So if they had have done what the Americans would have done, they would have lost like 8 to 10 million people minimum, right? Doing what you said that they should do here, right? And but that doesn't matter, right? Because what matters is the line on the chart and the wealth of the capitalist class, right? Because that's what matters. Forget about what's real. Like, Jimmy, you don't know anything, dude. Like, like for real, my man. Like, you don't know the first thing about what's going on. You still think the line going up for capitalism is the most important thing. Like, throw your own children overboard, line goes up. All you need to make people freak out today is make an electromagnetic pulse explode in the sky. People will lose their shit. Yeah, I mean, we love our toys, right? We love our toys. We've become so disconnected from the world around us in pretty major and serious ways, right? Yeah, China was virtually the only country who did a damn thing about COVID. Yeah, 2 people died of COVID-19 in China in 2021. Yeah, China's supposed to be bad because communism is supposed to be poverty, right? Yeah, exactly. Communism is one poverty, and if communist China is prosperous, it's because of capitalism. Whenever China does anything, including breathing, America is shitting itself and talking shit. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, look at the Z. You're right. The Americans successfully genocided the American Indians. Correct. You did it. Yeah, meanwhile, exactly, Grinning, the majority of capitalist countries are dirt poor. They are. Like, the success that the United States has had, the prosperity of the United States, and what people will always point to, oh, but we're so prosperous. Obviously, capitalism works. It's not much different than a train robber robbing trains and saying, oh, train robbery, that's the best way to organize an economy, right? You just need to rob trains. And that's the best way to organize an economy right there. For the West, the economy is the stock market where, yeah, less than 1% have 99% of money of the planet invested. I'd be glad if that fails. Yeah. Like this sort of anti-human viewpoint. This thing that says, oh, we can just murder as many humans as we want, right? Humanity can be wiped off the face of the planet as long as the stock margin goes up, right? That's completely fine. Like, it's so amazing watching these people who don't know the first thing about China actually pretend as though they can critique China successfully. Like, it's pretty amazing to watch. It's like watching somebody be like a backseat quarterback for like an NHL team. Oh, you should have done this play instead of that play. What do you fucking know? Like, I know you're just trying to be involved, but like, what do you know? You don't know the first fucking thing about what's happening. That the truth is that the Chinese government was responding to the Chinese people and was doing what the Chinese people wanted them to do, right? Not what you wanted them to do, because you're just some dumb white guy sitting on his couch eating burgers, right? Being a backseat quarterback for a country, right? It was responding to what the people of China wanted. And what the people of China wanted was what happened. And then that eventually changed. The people of China's opinion changed. They said, we're not really interested in this anymore, so we're going to do something else if we could. And the Chinese government went, very well, because the Chinese government understands that it needs to respond to the wishes of its people. And you're just so used to the idea that your government doesn't respond to you at all, right? You're just used to the idea of living in a tyranny where your government doesn't respond to you and does whatever it wants and you're just supposed to deal with it, that the concept of actually having a government that actually listens to you is so foreign to you that that's the way you think other countries operate. That's what's actually happening here, right? That's the reason you talk about China in the way that you talk about it. Because you talk about China's ruling class the way that you talk about your ruling class. Because you live in a tyranny of capital. You live under the dictatorship of capital that does not respond to your needs, that does not respond to your wishes, that does not give a fuck what you think, that does not listen to the first thing that you think. And instead of actually turning around and critiquing them, right, because you know that's pointless, nothing's going to happen, you're going to take your existential energy and you're going to pour it on some other nation. Because you think they operate in the same way and they don't. That's what's actually happening here. That the Chinese government responds to the demands and the wishes of its own populace. I said this before here, 25% of the dollars in the U.S., the rest outside of the country. Fort Knox has no gold. All Europe's gold in the U.S. is gone. Remolded in Switzerland, sent to China. All the U.S. has is a weak petrodollar. Yeah, it's essentially just a, like, it is the definition of a paper tiger, right? Like, the American power that exists in the world comes out of its institutions and its institutional force. And it's been able to maintain that power. Oh, I'm sorry, buddy. Sorry, guys, you're hearing my dog there. He's having a little snort fest. You got it, buddy? They've been able to maintain that power because the nations of the world have been isolated, right? The other nations of the world have been isolated, and they haven't been able to organize amongst themselves. And so every nation has been forced to negotiate with the United States, the IMF, the World Bank, all of these places, on a one-to-one kind of level. They've never been able to organize amongst each other. They've never been able to find organization or organizational power. Well, now they are. Now they are finding organizational power. They are beginning to negotiate with one another. They are beginning to talk to one another. They are beginning to trade with one another. And they are getting off the petrodollar, right? They're making major trades. Major trades are beginning to happen off the petrodollar. And that's going to make the dollar plummet. And that's the only thing that America sells to the rest of the world. The only thing America sells to the rest of the world is the dollar, which is essentially access to what has been called the global market, but is actually the Western market. And people are tired of America's dollar. They want off of it. They see how dangerous it is. It's dangerous to get dollars, right? It's dangerous to get into this American game. That America is unstable and will continue to act in unstable ways. It is better to deal with nations that show that they are stable and have stability and are predictable. Like nations that do what they say they're going to do. And that when they talk, they say they're going to act in a certain way, and then they act in that way, right? That's what you really want as a nation. You want to be dealing with predictable people. Jimmy, you're just kind of embarrassing yourself, man. Like, Harvard did a big, gigantic study of public opinion of the Chinese government. It was like a 20-year-long polling study that Harvard did. And they found that, yeah, the Chinese government responds to the demands and the needs of their people. The Chinese government in China has an approval rating as high as 95%. Right? So please, I'm just telling you right now, bud, stop embarrassing yourself in my chat. Because you are. You're just embarrassing yourself. Maybe be silent and actually, like, learn something about what's going on. Maybe frame your comments as questions. Right? Because it's pretty clear that you don't know what's going on and you're speaking from a place of ignorance. Yeah, look at Gaddafi too. Golden dinar for Africa was a liability. Good for Africa, disastrous for the petrodollar. Oh yeah. And what's interesting to point out about Libya, right? They did not have a Cassius Belli to destroy Libya. Usually they create some kind of bullshit story, right? Like weapons of mass destruction. Hey, weapons of mass. We got to go in there to get Osama, right? Like we got that unprovoked attack, even though we cooed the government, whatever. But like Libya had none of that. They literally just went in there. Like the phrase that encapsulates Libya was Hillary Clinton. They came. We saw. They died. Ha 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 ha. Like, they straight up, and Libya was a big moment for Russia. Putin has a speech that he gave about Libya where he condemned what happened in Libya in no uncertain terms. Because, like, what happened in Libya was, like, a total war crime. Like, an enormous atrocity happened under Obama. Right? And we're all just like, yeah, Obama, greatest president. Like, yeah, okay, bud. Like, what he did to Libya was arguably worse than what happened to Iraq. They destroyed that country. It was the most prosperous country on the African continent. And and now it's got open air slave trade and warlords vying for power within it. Thanks, Obama. Like, was it Obama or was it the NSC? Probably both. Yep. Libya gave up their WMDs for good relations with the West. Shit didn't even last a couple dozen years. Yeah. Do not give your weapons of mass destruction away is the lesson. Right? That's the lesson that the rest of the world took away from Libya. Right? Anytime you get talking about North Korea should give up its nukes. Ha 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 ha. We laugh in your face over that. No. Absolutely not. Libya is the evidence you need. The United States cannot be trusted. They are liars and grifters, They will destroy you and steal your wealth. Very, very straightforwardly. Okay, guys, we've reached the end. We've reached the end. Always remember, each and every one of you is a quantum being, walking around in quantum energy. These billionaires are spending hundreds of billions of dollars in the hopes you never realize it. You just stay the good little commodity they need you to be. Rebel. Revolt. Repent. Good luck. We're going to need it.